Welcome to the Squad Games Podcast. Squad Games Podcast.
So, Jason, I came to your house recently and saw your dog and your cats and talking about some D&D. Do you play D&D a lot, or is it just your girlfriend?
I do not. I have played when I was younger, but my fiance, right? That's important. She's listening. She does, and she's been super into Baldur's Gate. Like, it was a really good experience for her. She actually played with like a lot of people online, and she loves, like, she'll just like start campaigns and then like drop them in a second if like the people don't want to play anymore. But she just loves meeting people, so it was such a good like thing for her. And she had a D&D group for a while. I think I hit a bit during COVID, but she's looking to start a new one again. So I told her I'd play if she wanted me to.
Should do online or in person?
Hers was all in person, but a couple of her friends started moving away. They got like job opportunities and stuff. So she might do something online, but yeah, that's what's up. I know she's talking to you a lot about it, Dakotha. I know you were saying you were into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I play D&D quite a lot, but also have played Baldur's Gate quite a bit. If people look at me on Discord, sometimes I'm playing League of Legends. Sometimes I'm just active, and sometimes I'm playing Baldur's Gate. And that's pretty much the only 3 games I play. Jason, what character do you find the most fun on Baldur's Gate right now?
I like playing Paladin because I feel like just getting to role play, like being overly righteous, is super fun. You know, I actually just finished the Eisenhorn novels. That's the second series I started since I started playing like any sort of Warhammer games, and play Inquisition, right? So I just love the idea of just being like overly righteous. It's like not who I am, but it's super fun to like just like role play that, you know? So I like it.
That's fair. My favorite is Barbarian. Barbarian have the best dialogue lines.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then they're just fun to run around and smack things. Giacomo, you don't play Baldur's Gate yet, right?
I don't, but I'd play Paladin.
Nice.
I like Paladins in D&D. Do my different oaths.
They're fun.
Yeah.
In the name of Joe, please smite thy enemies.
Right. Exactly. Getting to play like that is pretty fun.
It is.
For sure.
Yeah. So you're speaking of Eisenhorn. I'm a real big fan of Eisenhorn. I've read all 8 books so far, and I'm waiting desperately for number 9.
The third in the series.
The third in Beckwin, yeah.
Yes.
Jason, have you read all 8 or just the first 3 in the trilogy?
No, just like starting the hobby, I'm behind on everything. So I just finished the original trilogy, and I'm like 1 or 2 chapters into the first Ravager book. Nice. Yeah.
So it's actually getting into that series I found really difficult to get into the Ravener series because it was just so different. It's like the same author, the pace, the book, like it's just different. Like instead of having like a badass main character protagonist, like you want in all kill teams, you have like the Inquisitor kill team, which Jason loves to play. And you have, the Inquisitor behind the scenes, like controlling dudes and like slapping the shit out of people with his psychic powers and stuff. How are you liking Ravener so far? Because I will say after the 3rd book and knowing the outcome and then reading Magus. So I guess there's going to be 10 books in the series, but going back and re-listening to all of them is such a pleasure. Like I love Ravener just as much as I do Eisenhorn for just different reasons. And some people can't get through all 10 books in a row because they're like, it's too dark. It's just like so heavy. And I'm like, bro, give me that shit. Give me the darkness. Oh, sorry. What are you thinking of Ravener so far?
It's pretty good so far. Like I just started, so I'm not like super far into it, and I'm still like riding the momentum from the Eisenhorn novels. Mm-hmm. I actually took me a little bit to get through the first one, and then I crushed the second and third one. I was just like listening to them all, like basically while I was working like all the time. Like it just worked out well.
Uh-huh.
But I'm with you. I think like it's grimdark, right? Like that's the point. And that's what you get. And so like I'm excited to see like they're in the beginning where they're on like that world where like there's like acid rain and stuff. And they're using like the characters are using, I'm not giving anything away. It's like the first 2 chapters.
Yeah.
But there's like some like sketchy new drug they're investigating that's like warp touched or tainted and stuff like that. So it's like the premise is there. It seems pretty cool. Like the settings they've described and like set up are pretty awesome. So I don't know, seems pretty good. But yeah, it definitely already like the tone feels different. But you got to remember, like I literally just finished the Eisenhower novel last week and I jumped right into it. So we'll see. I'm sure I'll like it.
Yeah, slow down, Dakotha. He's taking his time.
Yeah, right. But that's a benefit of having the dog, right? Getting to walk the Doberman a couple times a day. Lots of time to listen to audiobooks.
There you go. Yeah.
Nice.
Do you listen at a faster pace or do you just go regular?
I think I have this one set to. I only go up to like 1.2 the fastest. I know some people are like do more than that, but this one I'm pretty sure I've set to 1.2. Some books I just can't do it, or certain podcasts. It really depends on what the content is.
Y'all are crazy. I don't listen to anything sped up. I can't stand fucking chipmunk voices.
Oh,
That's exactly what it is. There's like a nice in between. I'm like, I talk fast and move quick. So like sometimes like if there's too long of pauses, like my anxiety just like spikes. So I'm just like, just say the next word, you know, like that's the New Yorker in me though.
Well, see what I was thinking.
I thought you were going to do a pause, Giacomo.
I just did.
For everyone on the podcast who listens to us at 1.5 because we're boring as shit.
I actually, there is someone who does. I can't remember who. Oh man, I'm gonna try to figure that out later.
It works better for history podcasts. Like I finished the history of Byzantium like a month or two ago, and like that's great, but it's like that I needed to move faster. And there's certain parts where it's like it's great to hear the descriptions of like certain societies, but like not much changes every 100 years. So it's like this chapter I can just go a little quicker and make sure I pick up the details. You know?
Do you listen to like Dan Carlin's Hardcore History?
I don't actually. Like that's one like people always suggest, and I know it's super popular. I started listening to one on like a long work road trip about like basically like 19th century Japan and how that like influenced like World War II, like everything leading up to it. So we were driving across the Midwest. It was a nightmare of a drive. So we had like 3 to 4 hour stints. We were in the car. I listened to like 10 hours of that. It was pretty good. I haven't picked it up since, you know?
No, I get it. It's a car ride trip for me as well. I don't think I do it normally.
Talk totally. Shit about Jimmy Kelly real quick. This fucking guy. I'm like, hey man, you love listening to books on tape, right? He's like, yeah. I was like, you should listen to the Eisenhorn books. It's the perfect segue into the 41st millennium. And he's like, fuck the lore. And I'm like, all right, cool.
It's hilarious because you just like he's gonna have to take that stance now every time you talk to him or have him on the podcast. So like you've dug him in.
He's like, I'm here to fucking win and kill kids. You know?
Like that first half of those books for Kill Team, like get that the fuck out of my face. I don't want that shit.
Yeah.
I narrative garbage.
I see. Well, that's the thing. Like I started with like the narrative, like, and like I said, I didn't play D&D. That wasn't really my thing, but it was like cool to get into. And I think one thing that's awesome about reading the Eisenhorn books is they always talk about these individual kill teams being in there. And like the first time they describe like the Kazarkin, right? Like I play Kill Team, right? But I'm like, I don't know anything too much about the teams. And then they talk about how they're the elite of the elite. And you're like, oh, this makes more sense. Like everyone's like, they should hit on threes because the lore, they're so good. I never understood it. But now I'm like, oh, this is what people were advocating for.
But here's the thing.
But it was cool that like how they introduced these like badass warriors.
Space Marines hit on a 3. Even if they're the best of the best, right? Like they're still just fucking dudes. And like a D6 does maybe if we're rolling D10s, right? Like Space Marines still hit on 3s. Kasserkin hit on 4s.
Man, could you imagine if
Imperial Guards hit
like
on
a
6s?
D10?
That shit would be crazy.
That shit would be wild.
I would still roll only once. It'd be terrible. Which sometimes is good if you're playing against mandrakes.
I think that would be a problem for the game in general because I think that's the problem with like what the fuck is that game? Shatterpoint. Using larger sized dice creates more variability, which innately creates more swinginess. Having a smaller die and a more probability of certain things happening
Oh, that's an interesting take. Okay.
I feel I feel is creates much more of a competitive balance, and it's better than 50-50 shot too, right? Instead of flipping coins, do I hit? Let me flip this fucking coin. Let's be fucking Two-Face. Oh yeah, I got a hit. Fuck you, my guy. But yeah. Going back to Eisenhorn, shit. Fucking talking way too much shit about Jimmy Kelly. All right. Going back to Eisenhorn. This is your first foray into the 41st millennium, right?
I read the first first three Horus Heresy books.
Okay.
And then when Night Lords were announced, I downloaded a Night Lords book on a flight and I just never started again. So this is the first thing I finished, I guess you could say.
And how have you, is this your favorite book series so far?
Like of what I've read, for 41st Millennium, yeah, for sure. I mean, I thought it was so well done. Like, I don't think it's like the most amazing thing I've ever read, but especially looking back and seeing how quickly they were released, like in succession, like originally, they were like a year or two after each other. Really well done. And I like everything ties together. Like it all makes sense. Like there's not too much where I'm like, this is nonsense. And we're talking about something written like 40,000 years in the future, something crazy like that. Right. Like that's pretty impressive. And I like how you get like all these different viewpoints. Like you get the people who are like, yeah, do whatever you have to win. And you get the people who are like, don't be a heretic, It's cool to see the different viewpoints. I think they do a good job of it, and it's not like too long. It's not like drawn out. Like the action's pretty consistent. Like they're always moving the plot along. Not a lot of filler. And I appreciate it. I think it's a really good series. I'd recommend it to everyone. It was recommended to me by like everyone. Like even when I was telling people at LVO, like, oh, I'm new to this. Everyone's like, you have to read Eisenhorn and Gaunt's Ghosts. Those are the ones everyone told me to read.
I think Gaunt's Ghosts is good, but it becomes repetitive.
I've never read it.
It's good. It's good. It's just, it can get repetitive because it's just like, how many times can you say the same story about guardsmen? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoy it still, like it got me way into like Tanith, and now I paint Tanith and I play Tanith, but like, that's still besides the point, right? Like it's cool and it's dope, but I personally like Flesh and Steel more, which was a one-off book, mystery thriller, murder novel.
Okay.
So it was just like a good one-off series. Gaunt's Ghost is like 16 books or some shit. So when you get in, like you get in. So
that makes sense. Yeah, I mean that's great. I know it was 16 books, but like add it to the list. I have a bunch of Audible credits left to use, so I'm stoked to actually start burning them down.
Mm-hmm. Giacomo, do you have a favorite 40K novel?
Ooh, of 40K itself?
Yeah, anything.
I'd probably stick more into 30K. I've read a lot more 30K.
Sure.
I don't remember the name of the book off the top of my head, but it's when Horus kind of falls to chaos. That was a pretty good one. I think it was the fourth one. If you read it in the order of the timeline, the events that it happens is the fourth one. Otherwise, 1,000 Suns is the first one I read, and I really enjoyed 1,000 Suns.
Fair. My favorite is the last book I've read in the Eisenhorn series. Of course, I've read all the other ones. So
the internet was really hyping it. That's the second Beckwin book, right?
Yeah, it's very good.
So the first Beckwin book is kind of hard to get through. It's kind of like not good, and then what's his name? Like took like 4 years and wrote this book, and he got like okay from Games Workshop. Supposedly, whatever the ending is supposed to change. It's supposed to be canon and change like all of 40K. And Games Workshop was like, yeah, we don't give a fuck. You write dope books. We're down to do whatever. And he's like, bet. So like the things that they introduce and the things they do in this last book is fucking crazy.
Well, I'm excited.
Bro,
I got 5 books to get through though. That's oof.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, well, if I'm going at my current pace, it'll be like 3 weeks. So
plenty of time.
Yeah, there's not a bad pace. Not a bad pace.
Yeah.
I've always been wanting to do like I want to do like a book thing because I'm really into books. Do you guys have any like favorite book, just a book that you guys read, or like your favorite book in general?
A favorite book off the top of my head? No, but I have a comedy book I really enjoy.
Or like a recent book that you've really enjoyed, you know?
Actually, there was a recent book I really enjoyed. I read The Road by Cormac McCarthy.
I was about to say Blood Meridian for my favorite book.
Blood Meridian is great, but that is a book you kind of have to read or go back a few times, going like, wait, what was that?
I read it 2 times in a row, and I'm with you. And the second time I read it through, it was just like when I read there's things I just did not realize the first time I read it through. And
exactly.
I read a lot, but I'm not like a strong reader. Like I have to reread stuff a lot.
Audible's the way.
Oh, for sure. It's crazy how I don't have to do that when I'm listening to it. But yeah, I wish I had that when I was in school, you know, like I was always, yeah. But anyway, it's like, yeah, like it's Blood Meridian was that. But The Road's super good, man. I'm so happy you said that. Rest in peace, Cormac McCarthy, by the way. Dude just passed. He's one of my favorite authors.
Great author, man. No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
There's the one with I cannot remember the name, but it's the guy who marries the prostitute, and I cannot remember the name of the book. Oh, of course, it's a Western because he likes Westerns.
Yeah, all of them are Westerns, like All the Pretty Horses, like that whole like trilogy, like the Borders trilogy, I think they call it. I forgot the name of the actual trilogy series, but like all those are super good. Yeah. It's like little kids like crossing into like Mexico and stuff after some like wild stuff happening. It's just, dude's so good. But yeah, that's awesome. That, and I was gonna say favorite book is Catch-22. I think that book's hilarious. I don't want to I guess it's not really a book you give stuff away, but like when they have like the Milo industrial complex and it's just like absolute nonsense. Like I think it's just like a funny book. I get why so many people like it.
Satirical war novels are funny.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So my favorite recent book that I've read or listened to is Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. And it's like a historical nonfiction where it's a story about how a church was built. And it's almost like a historical,
like historic fiction almost.
Yeah, it is historic fiction, but it's about how a church that never existed was built, right? In London. And it goes over like a few generations, and it's almost like a history book told in a really, really fun way, like the most fun way to learn about history. And it's like so gritty and so real about like how people dealt with things back in the day, because it was written by like a history dude. And it's just like, it's so good. It's one of the best historical fictions I've read. Outside of that, my favorite author is Brandon Sanderson and the Mistborn series, all of them.
That was the fantasy series, right? Is the Mistborn? Yeah,
Mistborn, and then he has a Second Age Mistborn series,
Wayne and Wax series, which I thought was awesome. I liked the first series. It was like I didn't really get into any of the characters or anything. Like I thought it was like good overall.
Didn't like Kelsier, my guy.
But like he's not really around. Why do we? Anyways, yeah. So, but the Wax and Wayne I thought was like super good. I liked like the banter between the characters a lot, and like I just really had a good time reading that series. And then I read it after the first 3 were out, and then it took a little while for the last one to come out. But it's Brandon Sanderson. You can't complain about his rate of releasing books, right? So yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, you didn't release Mistborn, but you released this 2,000-page novel that I'm going to have to go read now. Different universe, but hey, I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, I have no doubt the guy's going to finish it if he can, you know?
Oh, yeah.
The series
at some point.
Yep.
Dude's the Hulk of
the Hulk.
Literally the Hulk of dude. The dude goes on Giacomo. Homie goes on vacation, right? Gets inspired by the fucking like Bahamas or some shit, writes a fucking book on vacation, and it's like, oh, he got home, I'm gonna write another book. My vacation was great. And then he's like, you know what? I'm gonna start a Kickstarter, crush all of Kickstarter. The most money Kickstarter's ever made in a single fucking month-long span on one fucking thing. And he's like, yeah, I start my own publishing company. I'm a fucking badass because I just write books for fucking fun.
Dude finishes other people's book series. That's how good he is.
I think the best thing he is at is creating worlds. The man understands like how rules work in a world.
Oh yeah.
From all the stuff I've read from him, and that's probably my favorite thing to take away from his stories. is just how good he is at it.
Yeah, my favorite modern day book series is the Jim Butcher's Harry Dresden Files. That shit's dope. It's about a wizard who lives in Chicago. It's fucking sick. The first 3 books aren't great, but the rest of them, it's just like the first book is like really noir, but it gets just like he just gets better and better and better because he wrote the first 3 in college, and it's just like, dude understands action and understands how to keep you entertained. Shit's dope.
Dang, this episode's turning into the Squad Games book club.
Yeah. Hey, it's not a bad thing. Anyone who doesn't like books, why are you playing Kill Team?
Right? Like you invest a little bit in
how many fucking books have you bought, my guy?
How many rule books have you read? Kill Team, right? You can't not like it.
And you're like, oh shit, fucking read Nightmare. Oh no, these teams are fucking cracked.
There is a specific team that's fucking cracked. Which we will talk about right after I mention these things. So if you're in the Fairfield area or in the Northern California, we do have our Bay Area Championships going on. That's May 25th and the 26th in Fairfield, California. So that's going to be at Mad Alpaca Games. So you can hit that up. Bring the Mandrakes if you want. Assert dominance. Or, bring something like a cool team, like Night Lords. And assert dominance. Either way, you can assert dominance. But if you don't want to assert dominance there, next month we got the Midsummer Mayhem, June 15th at Loaded Dice in the hometown Santa Clarita. That's our anniversary tournament, which you can do the same thing. Bring the Mandrakes, bring the Night Lords, bring whatever you want. It doesn't matter.
You can bring the Felgor and make everyone mad at you.
You can bring the Felgor, and Jason will be like, why?
Oh man, not my favorite team to play against. We'll leave it at that.
They're a stressful team to play against. Like they legitimately, you have to think a lot. But I want to talk about the other one.
The other team that's probably frustrating to play against, but I haven't had the pleasure to play against it yet.
Which one?
Yeah, that's
Inquisition?
a good call.
The one that just says, nope.
Yeah, right. That's what's hilarious. It's like I play a team that just says you can't do that, which is obviously frustrating, and then they come out with another team that's way more like that, and I'm like, oh man, let me try this team out, and I'm like, ooh, not as much. It's pretty crazy. Have you guys played against a team yet, or as a team?
Not as, only against.
I have not played against Mandrakes yet. I've played against Nightmare, but I've heard a lot of stories about Mandrakes. And the thing is we talked about Mandrakes last week when we had Chris on the podcast talking about Pathfinders. And how Pathfinders shit on Mandrakes. And I was like, I don't know about that. And he's like, trust me, they shit on them.
I think I'm a little more on your side after having to deal with them and suffering the consequences of them. And I'm like, Chris. I was like, all right, Chris. But then I keep hearing stories about Mandrakes coming out the shadows into the greater's good light and being like, hey, go fuck yourself, greater good. And that makes me happy. But, I haven't got to play against Mandrakes yet, so maybe it'll make me sad because I'm going to Dallas and I got to learn some way how to play against these guys. So, Jason, why don't you teach me and everyone else about Mandrakes, how to play against them, and maybe the things that you expect people are going to do wrong the most? Because I think there's been quite a few stuff about Nemesis Claw that we've seen players doing wrong, and I think we addressed some of those already. But Mandrakes, I'm sure, are also just as complicated because they come from the Nightmare itself, the Nightmare realm.
Yeah, the first thing I'd say is read the rules, especially if you're the player. The first game I played with Mandrakes, I unintentionally cheated, and I only got one free dash for someone who was unengaged. You have to be unconcealed to use that ploy or to activate and use it. But this is not a team that needs an extra free dash, right? I'd say if you're playing against a team, there's so many things we can go into, but the biggest thing is...
And they dash on conceal, so,
Dash on conceal, and they have a ploy that can charge from conceal. I think... Yeah, right. And they can give someone a 4-inch dash. So, we're getting ahead of ourselves. But, it's pretty crazy just, what your threat range is, what you can cover. There's so many... There's, the two gotchas, I saw immediately that helped out is... It's that, being able to cover that, especially with, your chooser, right, who gives someone the extra APL permanently. You could just have him dash up. He could have the dash, or he could have the super conceal, right, which is also crazy and pretty good. But having that like crazy threat range. So if you have a 4-inch pre-move dash, you get your dash from what's it called? Let's use the actual names. Creeping Horror, right? So that's 8 inches, and then you can charge with that person and potentially run through walls if you wanted to. So if you think about that, you have a theoretical like 17-inch threat range, right? Because of the 1 inch for engagement and an 8-inch charge, which is pretty crazy. All of that from conceal, probably going to end up with a 4-up in bone because you're probably ending up in shadow. And then you've killed somebody, and if they don't deal with that person, or that person could be in one of the best smokes in the game because they also have the best smoke in the game, you're having a 3 APL model the next turn it's just going to go gangbuster super fast. Like I've only played a few games. It's pretty crazy.
Can this team charge and dash in the same activation?
It's not the same activation.
Okay.
So it's it says so. Well, like maybe I'm playing it wrong, man. Like I already cheated once. I could be cheating again. Total possibility, right?
I mean, you're playing against some people that I know the rules pretty well, so I doubt it.
It says on the card I got in front of me, until the end of the turning point after each enemy operative's activation, before the next operative is activated, you can perform a free dash action with one friendly Mandrake operative that has a conceal order and hits a start and end in shadow. Right, to me that reads that you could do a dash. So like that's what I'm saying. Like even like if you ignore like the threat range I just mentioned, like you could do the dash and then charge. So you now have like how do people respond to that? Like that's a theoretical. What is that? That's a 13-inch threat range. Just that you could just have at any point in time if you use this turning point 2 or something, or even turning point 1. Like they have to play around that. It's 13 inches. Like that's crazy. Right, 4-inch dash because you get the use the equipment. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. And like that's just like one small part of this team. Like I mentioned,
I'm trying to read it and trying to be like, no, you can only do one dash action per turn. You can only charge. I don't see that. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, they very much can just do it. I didn't think it was going to be a problem because it's like, oh, Corsairs can do that, right? Well, here's the problem. It's out of sequence in a way.
Yep.
It's not that everyone just has to do it right now and then you just kind of gamble where your opponent's going to move. No, they can kind of telegraph, or they'll see what you're doing and then go like, I'm going to avoid that. And then that's like, oh.
Yeah, you could use it. One thing I used it for is like you don't always have to dash someone, and then like second to last activation or last activation, like you could have someone ready to like deny like a recover item or deny a point, and like if they're able to dash and still meet all the requirements, like you could have them do that basically risk free to deny secondaries or primaries. I was using it for recover item, but it's like nuts that you could just do that. You can just like move dash a guy, have him up in a good spot, then before the end of the turning point, like someone's out activating you, just dash them to deny the recover item. Like that's just like a small, like another small benefit of it. It's kind of crazy.
You could also dash an operative after they've already been activated if you're getting out activated, to then set yourself up for an Overwatch shot, right?
Well, you can't. You have to dash from conceal.
Yes,
you have to be concealed, so you can't do that.
And you got to end in shadow.
What you could do is use another tactical ploy. I'm sure there's a way this is relevant, right? But you can flip someone to conceal, right? It's called slither out of sight. This is the tactical ploy, and you could use it at the end of any operative's activation. So it doesn't need to be that operative. So it could be someone else's activation. You can flip someone to conceal, and if you have the ploy up, they could then dash. So someone else, I don't know. Again, like I'm sure there's a time that is relevant or like some cheeky play, but that's like, why do you even have the option to do that?
Well, that's a tactical ploy. So you have to play it at the beginning of your turn, right? No,
it says at the end of any operative's activation.
Yeah, strategics are.
Oh, God.
Yeah, pretty interesting. That one I haven't used yet, but I'm obviously being able to flip your order is huge. And
well, here's the thing, everyone. These guys, this team, whoever balanced this team, okay, they have a strategic ploy that turned them into commandos. Commandos have their special rule is that they are allowed to charge from conceal. I mean, Yes,
Very
there's a
powerful.
caveat on it saying like you have to start or end your action within Shadow. And the way that a lot of here's my problem with Mandrakes. When I saw both of these teams came out, I was like, well, there's no doubt about it. I have to change my boards again because this team has the same exact problem as old Commandos.
Mhm.
They have a lot of heavy, and heavy allows them to do a bunch of crazy shit, right? And unfortunately, if we take out a bunch of heavy terrain, then all the shooty teams get really, really good. And it's like, oh, it's a fucking nightmare. It's just like it's so difficult.
There's one rule. So the heavy doesn't provide within Shadow if it's shorter than the operative. I think that looks like that board could be super interesting, but that is one maybe a way around it. Again, I don't know if you change your boards for one team though. That seems kind of excessive.
Well, especially with some stuff we're going to talk about later on. You know,
Yeah.
we'll have to. We'll see.
Yeah. I like how all we've talked about is like the charging from conceal and like the out of sequence dashes. We're like the team's broken. Like we haven't even like we could talk about everything except the leader and still probably feel the same way. And then we're like, oh, and by the way, they get this. Like,
So I like this team because their leader is a fucking beast. Like if anyone knows me, I like teams that their leader operative is dope. Like I like the Space Marines leader because the Space Marine leader's dope. I like Justian because Justin Timberlake is dope. Vet Guard, the guy's dope. This guy, fucking insane. How about we just start off with the operatives and then we'll go into their attack ploys and how we can abuse the shit out of the operatives with the ploys and everything like that.
Sure. That makes sense. Let's start with the basic warrior that you get 4 of, who has all these abilities we're going to talk about, but gets a power weapon 4/6 when it's in Shadow. Pretty good. And they can teleport.
The Bale Blast with Soul Strike should have been 6 inches, maybe 8 inches. They close the gap so fast.
Yeah.
Like, why is it infinite range?
Yeah, and like I think like the you can give them blast on Into the Dark, right? So they get the lethal 5 on shooting. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Of course, you lose your Overwatch or guard capabilities, right? Because you have a blast weapon now, but you're probably just smashing people's faces in at that point. Yeah, I think they're super like it's like I feel good like playing with them. They don't just feel like dorks. Like you're like this dude's gonna do work. Like I feel like they're good targets also to become like the 3 APL models, right? Like obviously there's other better targets, but like they're great targets for that because now you've increased the value of a piece that was perceived like less valuable. Obviously it is less valuable than the other pieces, but it's already super good. Now they have to deal with that. Or maybe you're stealing a point. It's just like creating another threat that like they have to focus on.
Before we get too far into these guys, let's just remember that these guys are insane on Into the Dark because each pillar counts as heavy.
Oh, so this is a good question because I know we're talking about teams, but like I've heard, and I haven't played with it, but the faction tack up 2, I've heard people are banning that on Into the Dark because they're still like interpreting like how it's going to play. But like it says at the end of any turning point, if a friendly Mandrake operative controls a terrain feature wholly within your opponent's territory that has any parts of the heavy trait, you score 1 VP. So like if that includes like the pillars, you could just
teleport to a pillar.
Yeah, I mean you could do it with like the potentially like the hatchways and stuff too. But like you just teleport to a pillar somewhere like an end pillar corner, and then you're just concealed, and you just do that whenever, and you're like I control this, and like it could be like an arbitrary pillar that like no one's going to place a model next to normally, or it would be like a huge inconvenience to your opponent, and you're just like getting free VP with one of these dorks, quote unquote. Really good dorks.
There are some people who already get like free VP for no reason. Totally. This doesn't seem like I probably wouldn't ban this, but I think that Games Workshop probably needs to address it and probably make it more specific for Into the Dark because it would make more sense to be like
a hatchway.
A hatchway.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's okay though because you have your faction tack up one, which just says perform a charge and kill somebody in shadow, and you get a fee. So it's like
it's also easy to do.
Yeah, but I was like playing with the first game I played. They're like, "Oh, you can't." I was on Into the Dark, and they're like, "Oh, this is banned some places. Let's not play this." Right? Because it was like it wasn't just like playing a random person with a friend, and we were like prepping for Dallas, and kind of we were just playing. But anyways. He's like, let's not use that because it might not be allowed. I was like, all right. And I looked at the other two options and like, this is like my first time playing the team. I'm
going to tell you this right now.
Really
Games Workshop isn't going to ban a single one of their own rules. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. I mean,
it's not.
They just won't use Into the Dark.
Remember, they can never admit fault. They've never made a mistake and they never will.
Frenzy's still a thing. Like I haven't seen that change. It's like, that's still a thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, it did change from like the very beginning because they were like, this denies all tac ops and tac ploys. And it's like, now it only works on like 4 teams and tac ploys, and that's it. So at least they kind of retconned it. But one thing I also noticed about Games Workshop is if they ever change a team, they rarely ever revert anything other than, I think, the AdMech buff. They're like, oh, let's buff AdMech. And eventually they're like, oh, nope, let's take it away. It's the only time I've seen them do it. Besides the point. So warriors are fucking dope for adding the extra AP to, right?
I think it's just like that's just like how I've played it. I'm sure there's situations where like the Dirge Maul, which I think is like a beast of a model, could benefit greatly from an extra APL. But I've been using it on the warriors. It just happened to work out that way. I think I used it on a warrior. I've used it on the warriors and I've used it on the Shadow Weaver ones, but it just happened to work out. And it's like cool that you have the choice and you can give it to someone and they permanently keep it. But like, I don't know, Shadow Weaver dropping like the obscuring bubble, right? Or your smoke that's like lasts until he goes again. And then you can charge and kill someone on like in a point, right? And the Shadow Weaver doesn't get the extra crit damage for being in shadow, but like you just charge, kill somebody, and now you're just chilling. In smoke, no one can shoot you. If they charge you, you fight first.
How about we go over the Mandrake Shadow Weaver and all of those crazy abilities? Like, I have a card in front of me, and there's so much text written on it that it's double-sided, and one side's like completely taken up.
Don't be me. I'm an idiot. When I got the cards, like I was like super tired, and I was like, I got them from another one of the Warp Surfers, Roger, right? And I was looking at it. I was like, why does this guy have no abilities? Doesn't he have a smoke? And I was just too stupid to flip the card over. So, you got a misprint. You didn't. You're just like me, which, sorry.
Which is weird, right? They could have put that in the front, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know which side's the front. It's just double-sided, but I was just an idiot and didn't flip the card over. So just realize you have the option of flipping the card over if you're not there. Anyways, his abilities, let's go to him. So he has 2 cool abilities. So first one is open a shadow portal for 2 AP. So he removes any shadow portal tokens if they're active, but you perform a free shadow passage action with this operative. And if you do, before and after it moves, you place a shadow portal token within white or 2 of this operative. So the team, you're allowed to do 1 shadow passage, 1 operative each turning point, right? But this guy is allowed to do the free move, and then anyone can do the shadow passage action through his portal tokens. So, like, I haven't done this yet, but like a real cheeky play could be like putting that somewhere on like a Vantage or somewhere, or like giving him 3 APL so he could like smoke a Vantage or something. Like, I don't know, something like that. Put him somewhere where like you're playing against a melee team and you can put a bunch of dudes on a Vantage or in a spot that they can't get to, and you can block them. And then you can just like shoot down on teams, right? Like I haven't exactly figured out how, but I'm sure there's like a way to do that, right? Mm-hmm. That thing's pretty crazy. But like I haven't used that actual ability yet. I think he's mostly good for his Weave Darkness, which essentially lets him pick a spot that's visible to him and drop a smoke. And that smoke doesn't go away at the end of the turning point. It's his next activation, which makes it the best smoke in the game. I don't know if there's another one out there. I'm not super aware, but that seems pretty good.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, and like just to give you an idea, like one of the things you can't do the shadow passage if people if you're in like line of sight of an enemy operative. So you could have this dude smoke a spot and then teleport, let's say, the leader somewhere, right, into like the mix.
That's with the team ability, not the shadow portal ability, right?
Yeah, so that'd be 2. But like a real cheeky thing I did with the Shadow Weaver in one of my games was a friend had a bunch of operatives behind a door. We're playing on one of the new Turning Point Tactics maps.
Mhm.
But he was behind like Doctarius terrain, and I smoked and then the door and then just like poured them in front of the door, right? So this is against Pathfinders, right? So like I didn't think it was like the best play in the world. I'm not saying you do that, right? I probably don't do that in a tournament. Right? There's way better ways to use the smoke. But I was like, let's see what happens here. And like you have to kill that operative now because not only is he like on their back line, could teleport through the door if he wanted to, if you gave him an opening, right? Because of the tactical play. Now he's just sitting there blocking the door. And yeah, that's just like crazy that you could just like do that, you know. And I was playing against Pathfinder, so the guy was able to kill him by like lighting him up with the marker lights. But still, just interesting that they even have that option. Like, just completely deny your movement for turning point 1. Yeah,
I think it's still a really good idea, specifically because there's something that we kind of overlooked during Pathfinders. There are specific teams in the game that are really reliant on activation order and when you do that, right? So like Pathfinders really struggle when you start taking out models or you activate them incorrectly or at different times that you would want to. Same thing with Vedguard, Inquisition, some of these quote unquote higher skill capped teams. Knowing when to activate models is like really rough, right?
Even
It's
just
like
think
one of
about
the
your
hardest things to
deployment.
learn.
You play
Yeah.
Vetguard, like think about how important your deployment is, right? You have all this like thought process, then someone just does that, and like you spend tournaments you play on a clock, right? Or like we have been, and so like that just throws off your entire plan. Like the mental load on the person playing against the Mandrakes is huge because you make all these like you have a plan and then they just like throw a wrench in it, and you're like, well, now I don't even know what to do. And if you have a secondary plan, hey, you might not get to do that. You might have to pick someone else to activate, you know, because of the leader. It's crazy.
Yeah, one of the main things that's like really difficult for like if you really have like a really good or worthy cause like turn 2 thing to like set up a secondary grenade and the leader's nearby, well, you just got to roll 3 up and that model's not allowed to go. So you know,
Or yeah. So I would say the other model, Dirge model. I love the Dirge model. I mean, I think it's like OP, but like it's like
okay,
such
let's
a
go
fun
over
model.
Dirge Maw next. Yeah.
So that Dirge model, yeah. Oh man, this dude is insane. Like I know everyone's like hyped about, or like I don't know about hype, but they're like questioning the leader and stuff. The Dirge model is like nuts. So this model, let's just go over its weapon profile. It has the Bale Blast with the Soul Strike ability, like all the models, right? But
Yeah,
it
they
also
all have
has
bolters.
yeah, but this model also has Horrifying Scream, which is 5 dice, hitting on 2s, 2/2, 6-inch range. It's indirect, Soul Strike, Mortal Wounds 2, Stun.
Do you guys
What?
think that the flamers are going to go to indirect? I really hope so.
Oh, that'd be an interesting one.
That actually makes sense.
Because one thing that we're going to talk about later in this podcast is Valorac's been talking about a lot about the next edition, or at least the rules changing. So we're gonna give what we hope happens, or things that we think are going to happen at the end of this.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But
Maybe
that's one of
indirect
mine.
with a penalty or something. Like that could be interesting.
Not even, man. It's just like, who brings a flamer? Like, why bring a flamer? The only reason why I would do it as Vetguard now is because you know, I'd never want to bring the Bruiser ever again. If I'm ever wanting to bring the Bruiser,
Yeah.
I have tricked myself into saying, just bring the flamer. So, but I think the reason why you don't typically bring flamers is sometimes it's hard to get shots off because they all have to be like valid targets. If they're indirect, if it's an indirect thing, it makes sense. Like, you know, flames go everywhere. I think it's dope. I think it's a cool idea. Yeah, that's pretty disgusting. Indirect flamer with Soul Strike. So the crazy thing about
it's 2/2. It's Mortal Wounds 2
And stun.
And stun.
Yeah, like that's crazy. Like that's first of all wild profile. Like I was considering playing Warp Coven for a while. Like I actually, these are some of the only models I didn't print. Like I got some cool ones off eBay, and I was gonna paint up 2 more. I had like a 30K Aramon model that I want to paint up.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I thought that'd be kind of cool. And I thought the Warp Flame pistol was super cool. I was like, that's really badass. And then you see this thing, and you're like, well, this has indirect. and stun.
You throw away that warp pistol and you pick this up.
Yeah, I just want to yell at people. Yeah, but it's super good. But it has two other amazing abilities, right? So it has the 4/5 blade. So like that's the one thing just everyone realized, like if you're playing against the team or as the team, only the warriors get the 4/6. They get the power weapon. If they're in shadow, the other operatives don't. Like the specialists, some of them don't actually have the blade, but I think there's 3 of them that do. So just be aware of that. But the ability that's super cool is Haunting Focus. So once in each strategy phase, when it's your turn to use the strat ploy, you use this instead. So first of all, pass in the strat ploy phase, which I love, right? So that's huge. If you do, select one enemy operative for this operative to focus on until the end of the turning point. And when your opponent would activate that enemy operative, if this operative is ready, you can activate this operative first. If you do so during that activation, you cannot select any other enemy operatives as targets for combats or shooting attacks made by this operative while the enemy is still in the kill zone. So this is another interrupt and out of sequence action that the team has. So like you could move this guy up and then turning point 2, you have your leader on one side shutting that side down, and you pick the model that's going to be a problem on the other side of the board with this dude, and you can just activate before him, right? Which is super good. And then you hit him with your crazy, horrifying scream, which could be buffed by the Abyssal with its like warp fire token or whatever it is, which basically increases your damage by 1/1. So I was listening to a podcast that I think it was Shane's podcast for Command Point, and he mentioned that he just like was melting Marines, right? Like absolutely melting Marines with this. And like I would have like when I first saw the team, like I was a little ignorant. I was like, all right, probably struggle with like certain elite teams or something, but like you just do this and you just like absolutely melt someone turning point 1, you out activate that team. Like that's crazy.
We have to remember that these guys have super bolters and a super flamer, right? Yeah. Like they turn all Space Marines into a 4-up save, and then they take all Necrons and give them a 5-up save, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're pretty cracked. What's interesting is I think that this Dirge Maul is kind of like the toxin guy from Nemesis Call. Like they have like an insane grenade, right? And this guy has like an insane flamer.
Yeah, this guy also
this is balanced.
Yeah, and that's like think about the model we just described. Like it's mortal wounds to stun, right, on 5 dice indirect. So that's like that's crazy. And then think about it, if you stun someone and then you shoot at them, right? They count as 1 APL less, so you theoretically are hitting on 1 better. Right.
Oh my Lord.
And so that's like if you don't finish the Marine off, now you're shooting enemies saving on 5s. Right. So like,
my.
And yeah. I haven't played that yet, but like,
how does that make you feel, Giacomo?
Horrible.
Yeah. Horrible.
Kasserkin had a 5-up armor save. What's going on?
But it gets better. Like one of my favorite ways I want to use this model, I got to do it once, but it's the other unique action. So for 1 AP, you can select one operative that's in shadow or in this enemy's line of sight until the start of the next operative's activation, or this operative's next activation, or the enemy operative is incapacitated, right? The enemy operative is treating as being injured, regardless of any rules that say it cannot be injured. So that's super injury, right? The APL cannot be positively modified, and you remove any positive APL modifiers it has. And then obviously you can't do that with an engagement range. But like, that's wild. So you could like,
and you just need visibility?
Or
you need line of sight. You need line of sight,
okay,
or the operative that you're targeting is in shadow, which is
which you're probably gonna do,
right? Which is pretty crazy. But like, you could set this up to like deny someone being able to reach a point. You are perma injuring like potentially a Marine. Like I think about playing intercession, like that sucks, right? Like it's pretty crazy. And then mind you, you're setting up like already you have the threat of like if you don't give them like the extra inch of dash. Right, like essentially an 11-inch charge because you get the dash from conceal and you could charge or like dash flip charge. Right, there's options like that. Like you could have like the non-reciprocal of non-reciprocal like charges in situations, depending on who it is. Or like maybe there's an operative who's like too close. Like, you don't even have to kill him with the scream. Like you could click. Or this model gets 3 APL, kills the model, and then like super injures someone else. Like super cool model. But definitely OP.
Definitely a contender for best model on the team in general.
I think I get the most excited when I get to think about like what I could do with the Dirge Maul, but it's interesting. Yeah.
So within shadow is if it's within 1 inch of a heavy terrain feature, that's not lower than it. And any part of its base is under a vantage point, or it's within 1 inch of a shadow portal. So you can just make shadow bigger for enemies too by creating a shadow portal somewhere and then being able. I mean, I guess
you have to suicide or not suicide, but you have to throw up your Shadow Weaver if you wanted to do that. Like,
Yeah.
right. Which again, like, I'm sure there's a situation where that's a good play. Like, but yeah, interesting, super interesting. And then, yeah, like it, but anyways, Dirge Maw is super good. And then also, like, I know we were just talking about in Shadow, but like you get 4-up invulns, which you pretty much will always have. But anyway, I was saying the Abyssal was the other one I had mentioned, who's like your other good, I mean, they're all good guns, but the other good gun on the team, right? Who has the Bale Surge, which is 5 dice, 3-up, 3/4 blast with Soul Strike, or you have the lethal 5-up, so it's 5 dice, 3-up, 3/4 lethal 5 with Soul Strike. This dude's pretty good, but he can wreath people in Balefire. And if you wreath an opponent in Balefire and you shoot at them with any of your attacks, you add 1 to both damage characteristic of the friendly operative's ranged weapon. You can also give this to your own guys, and they take 1 less damage in shooting, so normal and crit damage, to a minimum of 1. So infinite damage reduction, right? Like almost every other damage reduction ability I've seen has like a minimum of 2, minimum of 3, or it's been changed that way. And this one, you could just reduce the damage.
All right, I'm going to talk about some crazy shit real quick. All right, so Abyssal. So you go first, right? Turning point 3. There's 2 Space Marines left because they suck, right? And you're like, all right, cool. My Mandrake Abyssal is going to target your captain, wreath him in Balefire. And then, well, first, actually, the Dirge Maul's like, I'm going to haunting focus this guy. And then your first turn, you're like, I'm going to wreath and fire this guy. And then the other guy's like, cool. Now I'm going to activate my leader. And you're like, well, since you're thinking about activating your leader, I'm going to activate the oh wait, no, I think does it work? Yeah. The Dirge Maul. And then you're going to go up and you're going to do your super flame blast. Now it does 3/3 damage, mortal wounds 2, stun. And then he's going to save on 5s because you're going to hit with that strike, that critical first. And now he's like, well, shit, that sucks. And then you're like, cool, your leader's dead now. Now you got 1 Space Marine left. That's awesome.
Bonkers.
It's pretty some crazy stuff you could do. Like, again, haven't had a chance to do it yet, but I'm sure there's situations where you could like port the Abyssal, turning point 1, right? Because you can't shoot after you do the port. So you port them, and then you could wreath someone in Balefire, setting up for a big turning point 2. Like, that's like the simple things. Or like the play where I overcommitted my Shadow Weaver to block that door, like smoke port, right? Like you can just make them a little bit tankier. You can then also have, like, I know we're not going to the Strap Boys yet, but Gloaming Shroud, right? You get an extra free retain, right? Like not in cover, you just get an extra retain.
Yeah,
right?
you just get it.
Yeah, that's another orc thing that costs, I think, 2 CP to use. I think, or it might be 1.
Yeah, so you can make someone just super tanky, like a lot of survivability there. They also have a heal, like because they needed that.
Who the fuck balances team? Who the fuck did that?
I don't know. I mean, it's like honestly, like it's when you play, like sometimes it's just. I've only played a couple games, right? So, but like it feels like when you play a game and you just take like the best character. Like if you just play any sports games, you just abuse the main character, like the best character, and that's all
I'm going to
play.
play Tom Brady, and I'm going to trade for, Jerry Rice or Randy Moss.
Just like making like it's like a super team. I don't know. It's kind of crazy because each of these abilities, like every time I've mentioned something to you, like even like the reducing the damage, like most people have a limit on how low you can reduce it. This one doesn't. Just like just interesting, like little things like that, ignoring like the bigger mechanical advantages of the team, we'll say. But
your last guns now do 1-2 damage.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. It's just like almost like adding insult to injury. But there's like so many like cool plays that you could probably do with that or set up, and like I think it's interesting because like let's say you wreath someone in Balefire, you hit them with like you said, like the crazy plays, like you hit someone, the Marine lives, but now they're stunned. And then you could like shoot again at that person, and now they're saving on 1 less. It's like it just snowballs so hard, or could. And like I don't know, it's interesting. But the Abyssal is super good. He's your gunner for all intents and purposes, right? But then I'd say probably, I don't know if the most important model, but I think it's pretty big. People were originally saying it's the most important model, and it probably is, but it's the Chooser of the Flesh. This is the guy that when he kills somebody, you get the Soul Harvest token, and you can give the APL to someone else or him, right? Make a Model 3 APL.
And if you kill a Space Marine with him, then you get to give out 2 APL.
Those, yeah. Or if the enemy operative has 3 APL or more. So if you kill an operative whose APL has been modified, that also can happen. Yeah, so just another thing to consider. And then
that's going to be excellent against Hand of the Archon too, when they start buffing up their models and stuff from pain tokens and stuff. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's super, super interesting. Yeah. And like, yeah, exactly. So it's pretty crazy. But this, I think the way people were describing when I first listened to some podcasts when the team came out, like this is kind of the dude that like greases the wheels of the team. I think I've played him not as conservatively. Like my logic's been, I just need to get 1 kill with him, and then I'll get one of these tokens. And then if people try and focus him down, that's leaving me like an opportunity to do something else and have other 3 APL models. And they don't kill him, he snowballs. But I mean, how many kills are you realistically getting with this guy?
Maybe 1 or 2.
1 or 2. I think there's some interesting, I got to understand how that works, but I thought of like one team, I was like, oh man, how do they deal with like Gellerpox, right? Like, I've only played against Gellerpox twice, and Jimmy smoked me one time I played him, and so like I have an innate fear of Gellerpox. But it's interesting because if you put this model in a position where it could kill one of like the glitchlings, or it also has Reap 2, his like Baleblade, right? So it's 4 attacks, 3 up, 5/6, brutal, lethal 5, Reap 2, right? If you kill the little bugs, I don't know if they would give you a Soul Harvest token, but I don't know why they wouldn't. And so there's probably a situation where you could like port this guy and then set him up for a big turning point 2, like charge, get a couple models, and maybe kill 2 or 3, and then you're stacking Soul Harvest tokens. Again, I'm not sure. I know they don't count towards other, like towards like
Tac ops
and stuff, but I don't see why they wouldn't count for this, right? And it's Reap 2, so you're probably killing those things. So like that's pretty interesting. Versus that team. But yeah, I mean, just the fact that it's lethal 5, Reap 2, 4 dice, 3 up, 5/6, brutal, like that's like crazy. Like I play Inquisition, right? I think the Quest Keepers, like, so I think it's such a cool model, right? The one with the 5 up, deal no pain, hit on death, gets a reroll when it charges, right? It's 4 attacks on 4s with a built-in reroll, 5/6, brutal, Reap 2. But like this dude just gets a 3 up and he's lethal 5 as well. And then he also like, it's just pretty crazy. Yeah, and then of course he has like the better bolter. He just happens to have that on top of it. But the big thing is like you get these tokens, like it can give you a heal, but you're probably not using it for the heals, right? You can regain D6 lost wounds. It's the extra APL that you permanently get. So that's why I think like the Warriors, like they get pretty crazy once you give them this from like a charge, fight, shoot perspective, right? Charge, fight with a power weapon, potentially heal yourself if you need to, or you could go through walls if you need to like get that charge fight, and then you could shoot someone. Like it's just nuts. Or like the Dirge Maw, for instance, right? Like you could like blast someone and then super injure someone else. Like that's pretty crazy. I don't know if I would commit that many resources to one model, but I'm sure that's a situation that comes up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's interesting against the Gellerpox. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head how that would function, because I don't know if they actually count as operatives because they're equipment, but they very well may. Because I think I've seen select 1 mutoid vermin operative. So they are some sort of operative. And then this
just says an operative is incapacitated as a result of its part collector or Baleblade ability or the Reap rule.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could. I'd want to do, when I do like deep dives into rules, sometimes it takes me a hot minute or two. Similar to when somebody was asking me questions about the Nightmare Claw and how it interacts with GA2 and a few other things.
Yeah.
And I think the consensus that I came to on that is GA2 specifically says must. So if you try to stop somebody who has a must ability, it would still activate and you would just lose your APL. But things like drone controller and like the Vet Guard Sniper have a can in their claws, so you don't have to GA2, and it would stop those from activating. So, but yeah, I mean, that guy seems pretty fucking busted. Now, there was an article that came out that said that you could give like a bunch of dudes like an infinite APL, and that's just not true. You can only ever receive one APL bonus. I guess theoretically you could give them +2 APL, but you're only ever going to count as +1, which I don't really see the reason why you would. So.
Yeah, and he's another interesting target. Like if I don't know, I think there's so many things you can do. I'm thinking as we're sitting here, I'm like, oh, he could have that soul gem and have blast, and if you have people grouped up for some reason, and he has he gives himself 3 APL, like, is that dude able to like blast a group of people, charge, fight, potentially get a double kill, and then just like, again, it snowballs super hard. But that's the thing, like, that's why I feel like the team's like cracked enough that like if I get this off once, like it's just such a huge swing. Like obviously if you get it twice like that, I'm sure there's better players than me that would be able to do that or plan for that. But I think like just getting it once, like guaranteeing it once, like that's his job. For my mental load, I just want him to do that once, and then he becomes something my opponents have to deal with. Like that's how I'm trying to simplify it. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting idea, because with the Reap 2, you're guaranteed to like probably kill the first person you charge and possibly kill people around him as well. That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
And then if he's not in close combat and he's still in conceal, then you could dash him away from everyone, because, mandrakes are cool like that.
Yeah. One thing with him, my least favorite team ever, Felgor. There's very few things in this game where I've been like genuinely frustrated playing against. I'm sure mandrakes are going to be one of them, but Felgor is definitely it. But my understanding is you actually have to kill the frenzied goat. You don't get it when you frenzy the goat. Is how I've seen people discuss it. Yeah, so that's another thing to realize, and just maybe
currently
pretty hard. Yeah,
until things get an FAQ, because currently there's only like 4 factions that when you kill a goat, do you actually get the bonus?
Yeah.
Because of how the FAQ is worded, and whether or not like that was intentional or not, like who knows? But I think it only counts for like blooded tokens, Hand of the Archon tokens, and like 1 or 2 other teams in TAC Ops or something like that, or TAC Ploys or whatever the fuck they're called. Faction TAC Ops. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but this guy's really, like I said, greases the wheels of the team, really makes things like open up. I guess that's how it felt. Like once I got that kill, security is usually my first action. Turning point 2, it's like, man, now things are humming. I have some options.
Especially with how many models are probably still alive, because this team can pretty much just charge from conceal. So you can pretty much almost guarantee yourself being in cover, other than maybe the Abyssal. Maybe the Abyssal, you take the flip and then you teleport him somewhere and get a big blast off, or, maybe that's the only model you're actually losing turn 1. Maybe your leader, if you do some crazy shit like Jason said earlier, but not everyone can deal with obscuring. So you could just like jump into somebody's backline and they could do nothing about it.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
Mm-hmm. So there's one last model, and that's the Mandrake Night Fiend.
Yeah, he's not even good.
Wait, did we go over Chooser of the Flesh?
That was the Chooser, the one who gives you the...
okay, we were just talking about that. That's what I want to make sure.
Nope. Appreciate you being on top of it, because I might have blown by him. He's like, everyone, if the team first came out, everyone's like, the Chooser...
Abyssal, right?
Yeah, Dakotha had mentioned something about the Abyssal, like what you could do with them.
He's the blast operative, and you meet the people on fire.
Which is nuts.
Yeah. But going on to the Night Fiend, which is, this guy probably needs to be reworked. I think like the sooner they do it, the better. I don't know what that actually looks like, but we'll go into his ability. So I'll read it off. He has the Bale Blast, right? So he has the good bolter. He's obviously got 9 wounds because he's the leader versus 8, which is big. And he has a Husk Blade, which is 5 attacks on 2s, 4/6, lethal 5, stun. That's pretty good, right? That's just pretty good. But then the main ability he has is the Harrowing Whispers ability. So each time your opponent would activate a ready enemy operative within 6 of this operative, you can roll 1d6. And if the result is greater than an operative's APL, they cannot activate this activation.
Oh, really? Greater than 2 or 3?
And if there's no enemy operatives eligible to be activated, this ability has no effect. But yeah, exactly. And that's like pretty good, right? But then he also has the Weeblex, right? Which is at the start. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it sounds funny when you say it that way.
Obliex.
Yeah. I don't know why I said Weeblex.
Weeblex.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm like also that's. Remember, I said I wasn't really good at reading. Like I read stuff too fast, and the I is in the beginning of the word. I think there's a term for that. I think it's called dyslexia, but
you mean listexia.
Listexia, yeah. So I don't. Anyways, moving on with the Oubliex. That also sounds fun to say. At the start of each turning point, or if this operative incapacitates an enemy operative with its husk blade, the Oubliex becomes active, and while active, you basically get a 5-up potential just scratch, which is pretty good. So like a situation that's come up twice now. Sure, I'm fighting in melee, right? Or I'm in combat. I hit someone, they hit me, I shrug it, and then I kill them and I get it back. So then if you shoot this guy or he's in a bad position, now he has this, or potentially has that he's wreathed in balefire, right? So he's taking one less from shooting. He retains a save automatically. Like you see how crazy it can get, and then you're not going to beat this guy in melee, right? Like he's got stun, lethal 5 dice on 2s, and can fight first if you charge him with the tap deploy. Like he's pretty safe. I think like what he leads to, like I've had a lot of success with him, as you can tell. Like I haven't had bad rolls, but I think it's just going to lead to like feels bads for other players. Like between the Harrowing Whispers and the Oubliex, like it's so swingy. But I really think like you said, just a 2 or just a 3-up or a 4-up, right? And you're just like denying people's activations. That's going to get frustrating. Like I've denied 4 to 5 activations in a row. I forced like an out of sequence move that gave me an Overwatch that essentially swung a game by 2 VP. Like it wasn't even intentional. Like I was talking to the friend and I was like, he was getting frustrated with the leader ability, understandably so. And I was like, I'm gonna do something as a joke. So we went to go activate someone, and I like denied it with the Whispers, and I was like, that's all I'm gonna do. And we were like laughing, and then we started realizing, oh wait, right, that actually gets me something now, because we were just casually playing. It's like that's crazy that it was so relevant so late in the game. And I was playing with the leader super cagey because that's just how I was playing that game.
In my experience, that's exactly what happened. Turning point 3, the swing was so hard in their favor. It went from me having 4 and them having 2 objectives to flipping that entirely. From there, they went to 4 and I went to 2. And at the start of turn 4, there was no way I could get any objectives because they could just stop my guys from doing something, or first have the Dirge Maw come out and kill one of my guys right away. Like there was nothing I could do anymore. Like it's over.
Yeah.
Like what just happened?
Yeah. And this is the guy that could have super conceal and then charge from conceal as well. So like you could play super aggressive, and I'm sure there's a situation where he's not shootable, or if you are shooting at him, like you're probably not killing him. Like after he does the turning point 1, now he's messing with your turning point 2.
That's what happened. Like the Night Fiend just is a wrench. Like what the fuck?
Yeah, or dashes out of sequence, end of turning point 1, and now it's just in your face. Yeah.
Doesn't this guy also have a way to heal?
They all do with either the chooser tokens, but you're probably not using it. Don't use it for the heal. Like maybe there's a situation. Never use the chooser token for the heal. Always use it for the APL. But they have a shadow bite ability. So like when they kill a model, or when they charge, they have to charge and then fight. And when they kill a model, I'm reading the wrong one. This one you don't have to charge and fight. I was reading the fights first, or the other ability. But use this in the resolve successful hit step of a combat involving or a shooting attack made by a Mandrake operative against an enemy operative within 6. The friendly operative regains a number of lost wounds equal to that enemy operative's APL multiplied by the number of your attack dice that inflicted damage in that combat or shooting attack. Excess attack dice are ignored. So basically, you're probably killing someone in 2 dice, like if they're full health, right? And you're healing yourself for 4, which is pretty solid. I mean, I don't know, like I've only used it once, but it's like when you need it, it's pretty good.
So this was my thought process when I was first learning about the Mandrake Night Fiend. I was like, all right. So they teleport into the back line. They start doing all this kind of stuff. I was like, okay, so as a Vetguard player, I'm just going to take hand axes and I'm going to charge them. And then they get to fight first and kill my model first. It's like, okay, then I'll charge them with the second one. It's like, okay, now I'm going to hit you once and then you're going to save it. Or if I do any damage, then you'll just kill me right back. And then then you'll just heal my damage back. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to fucking ignore this guy and deal with it. I don't know how else to I think that you're right when this model is going to need some sort of a rework, because Games Workshop really likes to nerf models that don't have any counterplay. And this model doesn't really have any counterplay, because you can't even shoot the guy. If you use attack up, then it's like, oh, I'm going to save 2. Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah,
cool stuff.
There's a chance he could roll a 1.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, but it's
going to be a new YouTube channel.
But that's the other part of it. That's the other side, right? But that's the other side of it, right? So I went on a streak recently of like, everyone always says they roll bad dice, but I went on a streak where it was like, I was like getting real frustrated because it wasn't even like fun to play some games, because like for some reason I was just rolling atrociously, right? Like the point where like it wasn't even a game. For like,
have you bought Squad Games dice?
I have not, but I should. Yeah, maybe on the 15th, right? I'm probably planning on going to that. But thankfully, that is changed back to average. But during that time period, like think about if you're playing this team, like you probably are banking on one of these abilities happening, right? Like at some point, and like, what if it just doesn't go off? Like I know I think there's a lot of people out there like, oh, don't cry the blues for the people playing Mandrakes, but that could be a situation people are experiencing, and it just makes it like, it makes it just so like, there's already so much randomness in this game to like introduce this as well. It seems kind of rough. And like, as an Inquisition player who had like using Denounce, right? You get that once per game. I think if I had that twice per game, like that would be insane. And yeah, you're paying a CP for it, but like something like this, like, I don't know, make it once per game, make it not rolling a dice. I've seen a lot of people suggest that. Something like that. And even then, like this model is still so good. Like,
yeah,
it's just so good. Like I
would say something for sure that would have to happen is that you cannot use this against crits like they've done in the past with the other stuff. I think another thing that's interesting about it is that when you get shot, let's say you don't have your 2 automatic saves. So let's say 3 go through, right? You could roll 1 dice. Okay, this one goes through. I could roll a second dice. That one goes through. And then you could roll a third dice and be like, well, I blocked the third one because I rolled a 5 up. Like you essentially have, with 9 wounds, most guns you're typically going to have, or weapons, you're typically going to have at least 3 possible saves from that 5 up as well throughout his life, if he doesn't heal, right?
Yeah, he's definitely going to have a 4 up. That's the thing. Or same for the Ublex. Yeah, he's going to have a 4 up. So he also has an influence. So you're always getting a save or 2 if you're using the Gloaming Shadow. It's nuts. Durability.
And the Ublex, you're at least going to have at least 3 rolls of it, because it's not just when you get damaged. It's every dice that goes through. If you don't make it on the first dice, you can roll it for the second dice.
Even in melee, it's the same thing, like, right? Because you have stun and you're lethal 5 on 5 dice, so you should be getting at least 1 crit.
God, it has stun.
Right? That's what I'm saying. So, like, think about the tankiness just from that. Like, and you can fight first, or maybe you don't. Like, it's just like wild.
Okay, so this happens, and then they take all of Vetguard's like spice away, and then this team comes out, and it's like, oh. This is a spicy team.
Yeah. And like, I'll be honest, it's fun to play. Like, I don't want to take that away. Like, it's super fun. And I imagine that there's like
it's funner than Colts, because Colts, I heard, is not fun to play, even though you win games.
I've only played Colts a couple of times. I thought they were like a cool team thematically. Like, I have my Colts painted up as like Slaneshi Cultists, and then I tried to use.
Are they all in like leather and stuff? Are they like?
No, just color wise, because I'm terrible at kit bash. I'm working on that now, but the just color wise, and then it's like the mutants and the drawing a blank on the name of the other dudes. I haven't painted up as like kind of like ghosts,
Torments?
like spectral torments. Yeah. Like I use like the nickel oxide or something like that coloring.
Oh yeah, with the dry brush of white.
Yeah, and it looks pretty cool. Like I saw someone doing that for the AOS ghosts, and I was like, that's pretty cool. Like the idea of like they're kind of like phasing in from the warp or something. But anyways, I like Colts. I thought they were cool. And once they started getting nerfed, I didn't feel bad playing them. And I I think they're fun to play. They're interesting. Like I've tried to play them different ways though. Like if you play like the classic strategy of like get 2 torments, play KG, like keep them like protected with the icon bear, like use the defensive buff so they don't take damage and they live. And then it's like snowball teams later on. Like that's fine, but like it's fun also to kind of like play it like differently and try and like just keep mutating mutants. Just like play that game. It's just like Trinity Point 3 have like 4 mutants and like just feel like 4 or 5 mutants like running up the board. I don't know. It's not the best way to play, but there's like, that's what I'm saying. Like I like playing different ways and like experimenting with stuff when I can. I don't get to play like often enough, but like there's always different ways to play teams and maybe more to your play style. But yeah, Colts, if you play it the same way you quote unquote should play it, it's probably not the most fun team to play.
Oh,
you know, it's a good equipment on the Mandrake Night Fiend. Is the little chain thing?
The chain snare. The one. What for? Is it one? This one. This one's
1 EP.
1 EP.
Yeah.
There's one equipment that's I think wrong on the cards.
Is it?
I think it's the haunting projection. Like it's 2 in the book, and it's 1 on the cards. I don't want to steal G's thunder though. Go on about the chain snare.
See, I got it used against me. And at first we were interested. We were talking about it, like, you know, then he's like, I put it on the guy.
Chain snare says 1 in the book as well.
And that's all it needs to be, because like you can get yourself in combat and you're actually safer because your opponent doesn't want to fight a guy who's going to hit on 2s. So that means you're not getting shot at. And then you still can have a bubble of denial. Like it's really good.
Yeah. And it's like, it's 1 EP, so like there's always a chance. Like it's just going to make sense just to take 1 on someone. And it seems like a pretty good target for it. That's crazy to get caught by that. Like, and what's interesting is like that's an equipment, and then there's also the Choose of the Flesh who just naturally has like an ability built in that if someone falls back, you just take D6 mortal wounds.
Like,
so, like,
okay,
you double charge. Someone gets hit with the Reap, right? Like a 7 or 8 wound model. Then it's like, I dare you to fall back, right? Like, you know, you're like, you know, like if I'm sitting there and I have the guy who has to fall back and I got 6 wounds, I'm like, I know he's rolling he's rolling a 6. Like, I can't do this move because he's definitely rolling a 6. Like, there's no way that doesn't happen.
Going to die.
Yeah, like you're like the right place to fall back, but I'm gonna look like an idiot when I kill this model on my own turn. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
And then and then you just look at the Mandrake's player and you just give him a fist bump. You don't blame dice, everyone. Don't blame dice.
There was it was so cool. One thing at LBO was like people were always like very like happy for other people like rolling well, but also like frustrated, right? It's always cool to see that dynamic over the course of a couple of games. They're like, hey, good for you, but this sucks also, you know?
Yeah. That's the best, dude, is when you're like, hey, good for you, my guy, and fuck you too, my guy. Yeah. Thank you, my guy.
Which is one cool thing about this team that I like. It's just like probably just like a change of pace thing. It's awesome when you're taking a shot at someone and they just roll like 2 1s and a 2. And you're like, nice, but then like, wait a second, like,
oh no,
I know, like someone rolls like double. You know how many like double 6s were rolled against me? Like when I was like playing against my friend, it was just like he rolled double 6s, and I was like, oh wait, that's a good thing, like because of the soul strike ability. But it's just like it's not even like there's so many feels bad things I think with certain mechanics here, but like that's just like I think that's fun. It's just a nice change of pace.
I just thought of something since you mentioned that, and that's right. The 1s and 2s are essentially your saves. A lot of saving abilities would have you reroll 1s for failed saves. So you can kind of mitigate some of those abilities that some teams have. Just want to point that out real quick.
Yeah, just add it to the list of
though Gellerpox has something where I think it's Gellerpox, where if they miss enough saves, 1 becomes a save or something.
I think so. I'm on Gellerpox's page right now.
Yeah, they have something where if you miss a certain amount, like you can retain a save. So if anything, this is a time where I
don't know if it's saves. I know it's to hit.
It's the amount, right?
It's the amount. Like, yeah,
so it's actually good for Gellerpox.
Yeah, it's actually good. This is pretty okay against Gellerpox. Like this, I meant Gellerpox are kind of okay into this.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah,
make Bone Darts good. Figure out how to make that good.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
It's definitely there.
It's there, right?
Okay, so it says so it's Blessings of Pox. Until the end of the turning point, each time a shooting attack is made against a friendly Gellerpox operative, at the end of the roll defense dice step of that shooting attack, if the total result of your discarded dice saves is 7 or more, you can retain 1 failed save as a successful normal save instead. So as long as you still roll well, like you can still turn it into a success.
Exactly, which is
a
just,
1.
It's just nice. Exactly.
Real quick, reading bone darts right now. It makes sense because they're bone darts, but super unfortunate that of all the shooting attacks on the team, like that's the only one that doesn't have the soul strike ability.
Right. Like when would you okay, I guess it's silent.
I'm not taking bone darts.
No.
Probably not. But it's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's taking bone darts because it's also limited. You get 1 shot in the mortal realm. You know,
it doesn't even do anything. Like if it
Bones
was like
of its enemies,
like it'd be cool if it stunned something or it did like an ability one time you use it for that.
I guess,
or just made it so an operative couldn't activate. Why not at this point? Just
right. Yes, some make it good somewhere. They count as being
crazy.
injured right away for the rest of the game. I don't know.
Maybe turning point 1, you can give it to op models so they can move up the battlefield and then shoot while they're on conceal and then charge round 2. But like, why do that when you could just take Soul Gem? Or any of their other
or anything else.
They should have only given them bone darts. That's probably the best thing they could have done for this team is only bone darts.
Like they can have super conceal. What the fuck?
So another equipment here we got is the haunting projection. So Dakotha, this is the one that says 1 EP on the card, but I'm pretty sure it's 2 in the book.
Pretty sure it's 2.
It has to be 2 because that's fucking
It's too
insane.
good. It would be busted at 1.
Right. But this thing's like select an objective marker within 6 until the end of the battle. When determining control of that objective marker, this operative is in the kill zone. Treat enemy operative's APL as being 1 less. And you can only perform the action once. But it's like, this is like, you could just like port and then pick a point and be like, you count as 1 less.
Yeah, but doesn't that also require like for shooting?
Like,
oh no, it says when determining control of the objective marker. Okay, all right, just making sure.
Just
making sure. Because I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Yeah, but what's crazy is like that seems like all right. That seems all right. Like that seems like something you could do. First of all, you're going to port a model, which is pretty cool, and you do that. Like I'm sure there's some tech there for sure, but it's like, why does this team need that? Like it's almost like there's too many options of things to do. It's like I don't think I would ever choose to do that.
They're trying to confuse us.
That's what it is because
you just play the team.
Yeah. They're like, take that instead of giving all your guys blasts out into the dark or having an extra inch for a dash. Like, right? Like, you're not going to do that. That's like the dash is 2 EP and that's 2 EP. Like, that's crazy. And then the soul gem for the blast is 2 EP. But the shadow glyph, the super conceal, I think that's crazy. Like,
so we've gone over 3 and now we're going to go over shadow glyph and then we have spectral essence and soul gem next. So what is a shadow glyph? Jason?
Shadow Glyph is 3 EP, and while this operative has a conceal order, it's always treated as having a conceal order, regardless of any other rules.
Sick!
Super good.
It's just, yeah.
I have domino field for this model.
And that's all you need it to be, because it's just like the one model I'm going to get across the board that you're never going to get to shoot now.
I think you put that on like your Shadow Weaver.
You could.
I put it on the chooser. Like where I've done it, like I said, I've been playing aggressive with the chooser. Mm-hmm. So like him or the leader, right?
Wow, get fucked.
Yeah, and like that's pretty interesting.
And I can charge from conceal, and I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
I'm going to kill your model, and you still can't kill me because I'm in conceal.
There's quite a lot of combos with this team.
God.
Yeah, and that's what's cool. Like it feels fun when you're playing it, but like it really is. Like in my experience, it hasn't been fun for the people I've played against.
Well, we haven't seen Brood Brothers yet, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Let's hold off on how not fun this team is compared to like when a model appears that can force one of your models to do an action that you don't want them to. We'll have to see how that works out.
Yeah, right. I'm with you. Like in a year, we're gonna be like, we gotta buff the Mandrakes because they're just losing to these other teams. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. But it's a super fun team. But going on to the next equipment is the Soul Gem. That's the 2 EP to give everyone a 1-inch blast. So it's a Veil Blast weapon. It's a 1-inch blast.
You just take this on Into the Dark and you get all your dudes lethal 5s.
Lethal 5. Yeah.
And fucking
Yep, that's what you do. Hope you roll some ones.
You weren't going to Overwatch anyways, and you probably weren't guarding.
Yeah.
So it's not even a lost raid.
There is so think about it with this team, like you could port someone and go on guard. I'm pretty sure you can go on guard. I don't think you can shoot, but you could port someone go on guard, and then if someone wants to open a hatchway, it's like too bad, and you could put them somewhere.
And then you can flip them to conceal and then dash them behind cover.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I'm like, it's crazy how like I've only played a couple of games, but like you're seeing these things that you could do. Like that's a great point. Like you could flip them to conceal afterwards, right? You could
and then dash them for another CP.
You can dash
why not?
another CP. Yeah, it's pretty wild. You're like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, that's my only reaction to this team is just a laugh. I mean, like, it's exciting.
It's it is. It's they're pretty good ability. Oh, we also forgot. Sorry, I don't want to leave this out. The extra inch for dash, which pretty sure you get the extra inch on scout accept. I always say pretty sure because I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure you get it from your scouting dash. That's 4 inches. Then you get a free dash, which is another 4 inches. That's what I was talking about. That 17-inch threat range.
It's nuts.
It's pretty insane. Yeah.
I want to go backtrack slightly. I was just looking up the guard rule. It says you're making a shoot attack. So would that not work within Shadow or with their once they teleport, right?
Is it an attack or like an action? I thought I saw some discourse about. I haven't used it that way because
let's find out. We have TOs here.
When they shadow passage, free. So if this, so shadow passage is one of their abilities. I mean, we haven't even gone over their abilities yet because they're fucking awesome. One friendly Mandrake can perform the following unique action per turning point. If this operative is within Shadow, perform a free normal move action with it, but instead of moving it, remove it from the kill zone and set it back up again within Shadow, but not within engagement range nor line of sight of an enemy operatives. It cannot make shooting attacks until the next turning.
Yes.
And does Overwatch say shooting attack?
It's treated as a shoot action.
Guard.
Yeah, guard is treated as a shoot action. So not technically the attack.
And then we have to look at shoot action.
And then we have to look at shoot action. All right, guys, we are here doing it live, finding this out for you. Well, it's not live anymore. It'll be recorded at this point, but we're doing this for you guys. That's how much we care about you. Shoot. Make a shooting attack with one of the active operative's ranged weapons. That's the description of the first sentence in shoot.
So it cannot. So this says in the shadow passage, it cannot make shooting attacks until the next turning point.
So you can still make the shoot action, just not the shooting attack. How do we rule that? How does that work?
I'm still trying to read it.
Okay.
So if there's no valid targets for the shooting attack, the shoot action cannot be resolved. So any shooting attack is a shoot action, it seems like.
Okay.
So if there are no valid targets for the shooting attack, the shoot action cannot be resolved, and you must choose a different action for the operative. So it seems that's what I would probably say. Just off of like quick, if I was at a tournament, like somebody asked me this question, pull it up. If there's no valid targets for the shooting attack, the shoot action. Yeah. So any shooting attack seems like it is a shoot action. So if you teleport, unfortunately, it doesn't look like you could.
So you can't go on guard.
You probably can go on guard, but actually,
because guard you make a shoot action. That's why.
Yeah, but I don't think you can actually shoot. I think you can still fight on guard, can't you? Not.
Oh, you're right. You guys. I thought guard is specifically.
Does the hatch is? What if you hatchway fight with it? That's where I was thinking it'd be the most useful.
Yeah. That's a different question. Now we have to go back to.
I'm on guard right now. When operative goes on guard, see below. An operative is on guard until any of the following are true, right? Okay. And on guard once during each enemy operative's activation. Interrupt. No, I just read it earlier. I'm trying to find it. This action is treated as a shoot action. An operative cannot perform this action if it has a conceal order or within engagement range of an enemy operative.
That's the shoot action part. But what about the hatchway?
Well, this action is treated as a shoot action. So if you were to try to go on guard, right?
I don't know. I can't find it.
That's where it's like the words like the shoot attack versus
it's in Into the
action.
Dark. If you're looking for where the guard is in any of the Into the Dark books.
Well, I'm on Waha.
That's where I'm too. Just you could go Into the Dark and then there's the guard section. But that's what I'm saying. Like this action is treated as a shoot action. So therefore, because that's how I would remember with Space Marines. Like I would shoot and then I'd go on guard because I have double shooting with intercessors.
I like the idea if we just roll it as they can't do it because it's too strong.
Right?
Yeah, because otherwise it's like Hold on, we had to find a few rules to make sure that this does or doesn't work.
Okay, so it says perform a free fight action. The on guard below an operative. It performs an on guard attack or attack actions. So the operative goes on guard. An operative is on guard until the following are true. So going on guard just costs an AP. It's not a shooting attack.
Hold on. This then right under that, once you read those bullet points, this action is treated as a shoot action.
For what?
For guard.
So it performs a guard attack on any excluding pass. An operative ends within engagement range and does not use the guard attack. Its order is changed to conceal. This action is treated as a shoot action. Okay. The operative cannot perform this action if it has the conceal order or while it's within engagement range of an enemy operative. So,
if anything, the little sentences you just read should have been at the top of guard.
I think you're right.
Yeah, so that's why it's a shoot action to do a guard action, or it counts as a shoot action, which would then say we couldn't do the thing we're trying to do with Mandrakes.
Yeah, without further in-depth look at multiple more rules, I would probably just say currently that you are correct, G. This is considered a shoot action, so they would not be able to teleport and then go on guard.
Yeah,
so.
Get ready for the... Yeah, I mean, I think that it's way too strong if you can do that. That's the first thing. Yeah, but ignoring that, it says shooting attack in Shadow Passage, and that's where I saw people going back and forth. It's like shoot attack versus shoot action. But I'm with you. I think this is crazy if you can do it. Now, I haven't played enough games to see what happens if you can't do that. Does the team just get rolled? But my gut says definitely not. Actually,
because I think
definitely not. Yeah.
No, I definitely think that looking at the selecting a valid target. Shoot action is defined as a shoot action. So a shooting attack is defined as a shoot action. So
yeah,
I think that's pretty solid.
Yeah. So, but I mean, so thank God you can't do that. But even then, you could get your free dash if someone opens a door, right? So you move, get your free dash, and then you just move again and you get a hatchway fight pretty much like anybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty crazy. I don't know. It's pretty nuts. Just even having that option to do it. And then also next turning point, you flip them to engage and just start blasting people.
Interesting. So also when you go on guard, unless you're a space marine, since it's a shoot action, you can't actually go on guard, after you make a shooting attack. Correct. If you're trying to catch somebody on a hatchway fight or something.
Yes. You need to be able to double shoot.
Well, okay. Yeah.
So would that mean that, let's say for Chaos Marines or even for Tactical Marines, they can only double shoot if they use a bolt weapon as the second shot? So therefore, they could only shoot with the bolt weapon and then not go on guard because it's not a bolt shot?
If they use their bolter, I think that it would be fine.
Well, I would imagine their first shot with the bolt weapon could count as your free shot, and then your actual shot is guard.
Well, because usually the rules will say as long as the second shooting attack is with a bolt weapon. So you can't go on guard and then shoot because you've already gone on guard, right? Does that work?
Definitely can't do that, yeah. Because if you go on guard and do any other action,
then you lose guard.
Yeah.
So technically, unless you have it built in like an intercessor. Oh, no, hold on. Hold on a second. Because intercessors is you can double shoot as long as you're... Does it say that? Hold on. Now I have to look. This is just an extra thing. It's a bonus for the fans out here. Yeah. It's a bonus for the fans.
Yeah, this is how we're somebody asks me a question and I'm like, I don't fucking know. Let me look it up.
I'm fucked up in the crib right now trying to figure this out. All right, okay, here's our intercessor. This operative can perform 2 shoot actions during its activation.
That's it, right?
Hold on. That's for the gunner. No. This operative can perform 2 shoot actions if a bolt weapon is selected for at least one of these shooting actions. Oh, no. Okay, never mind. There's specifically if it's selected for at least one of those shooting attacks. So I can do it as a first shot, then go on guard.
It's the same thing with malicious volleys.
Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted to check next. All right, cool. So they're good. I just want to make sure.
Mm-hmm. Right. And sorry if we're boring everyone. I'm sure you guys might be looking it up too or just waiting for us to figure it
Nah,
out.
man, they're driving. They're listening to it on the ride. When they get down from this, though, they can rate this a 5-star rating on whatever, or a 1-star, whatever. Just give it ratings.
Just
They're
give it
like-
a
Or
rating.
share
like-
it with somebody that you
They're
think
like,
might benefit.
actually, On Guard does work, and you guys are stupid. So
Yeah, share it in the
one
Discord,
star-
whatever.
1-star review. You know,
Right? It's crazy.
we've heard worse on the Hobby Highlander comment section. All right,
I love the Hobby Highlander comments.
Oh, I watched that, right? Because I'm painting up a Necron army for like 1-page rule, so I guess it's technically a Necron.
Hey, there you go.
I don't know. Am I allowed to talk about that on here?
yeah,
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 cool.
of
All right,
course.
awesome. Yeah, but like local friend, we were just finishing up a narrative league, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I want to do like 1-page rule. It seems simpler." And I had bought the Royal Court. I think it was it Royal Court? No, it was the Indomitus Necron set, like just all the spurs for like pretty cheap. It was like 125 or 130, like every
Nice.
single piece when I first started playing. And then I got into Kill Team, and I just had that was my pile of shame, right? And it's cool to like finally like paint up some of those models and stuff. But like I saw the white because I like the white I forgot what I was using before. It was some random white. I think I might have been using actually like an airbrush white because I'm an idiot, but like and not with an airbrush. And I ended up getting, which one did I get? I got the Bold Titanium and then the Vallejo one. I know it wasn't the winners, but I couldn't find the too thin paints anywhere locally. So I was just lazy and I wanted to get the Necrons running, but I ended up going with the Vallejo because G really liked the Vallejo. Didn't go with the AK. Sorry, Dakota.
You're fine.
There's nothing wrong with Bold Titanium. I personally think that Monument hobbies have really strong pigments, which can sometimes be harder to blend with. Not saying it's impossible, just harder. So I will whip out Vallejo. Now I'm whipping out the winner, which is Tooth and Coats. The episode's been out enough. People know now. And that's what I like to use to blend whites, or I might use an ink every now and then, something a little thinner for whites.
So one thing that's interesting that I found painting my guys, Tooth and Coats hasn't been going like on that extreme edge with the tip of your brush very well. It seems to be drying in my bristles really fast, which is not something that we really found on the show. And it's something that you have to like apply like 2 coats. Like if you're going with the edge highlight or something like that, that's fine. It's a great base coat paint. But something that I've actually switched to for those really extreme highlights or painting like eyeballs. Like I was trying to paint eyeballs with the Tooth and Coats, and by the time that I'd get there, like there wasn't enough white being transferred to the model. Like it was, and it was frustrating me. So I pulled out my Bold Titanium, and I think Bold Titanium is still the best pinpoint highlight and possibly even edge highlighting white out there. I think that,
I'll counter you on the edge highlight part, but I'll agree with the other part.
Yeah, I think Tooth and Coats has it beat on pretty much every other aspect, but I find myself going to even away from AK and going to Monuments white for like eyeballs and little white dots. But that's besides the point.
You guys are so good at this because like with like someone doing this with not a lot of experience, like I started like with like slap chopping, like pretty simple. I started with just like spending way too much time painting and doing it completely wrong. But like then I switched to slap chopping and so. And so when I Zenithal primed my Mandrakes, I used the Vallejo dead white for like just add additional like edge highlights to it. Cause I always go back in with like some Nuln Oil to make like the darker spots a bit darker.
Good.
Paints. And that's what I've learned, right? So like it works really well to kind of make like darks darker, brights brighter. But the Vallejo dead white worked great for the edge highlights. But when I was doing the eyes for the Necrons, I actually preferred the Bold Titanium, which was interesting, just for like those like thinner sections without it just like splattering everywhere. But it's interesting you said the too thin coats was a little bit more difficult for like the tip control, I guess you would call it. Right?
Like coming off the very tip of the brush when you're trying to get like those really like edge highlighting Space Marine armor is difficult in itself. It's difficult in itself, right? It's hard to do. And sometimes like the angle of it, you have to go in with the tip of your brush rather than like the side of your brush. Because a really easy way to edge highlight is to use the side of your brush.
That's what
right?
Yep. That's it.
But sometimes you have to go in with the tip. And too thin coats, tip, maybe not the best. Its edge is great, but tip I'm not a fan of.
Whenever I have to edge highlight, like you said, just using like the tip of the brush, it actually just becomes a splotch, and I tell myself that's like a lighter piece of clothing that got sewn back in afterwards because I just like have zero control over it.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it was awesome, and like I personally, like I really like the hobby Highlander just as someone who's just getting into it. It's like super cool to see your guys' experiences and talk through it, but it's also like I like how like in that one episode it wasn't what you were expecting. And I think that's just like cool how you were open to that idea of like, oh, there are other ways to do this. Like not only you learning like with other people, but it's like cool for me to see like some of the things you guys were considering while you were like testing out the paints are not things that they weren't even on my radar with what I was doing. So it's like cool just to get that experience. So it's helping people too. For what
yes. So, you know, just like there is an overall thing we think is best, but like any professional painter will eventually have, you have an arsenal of colors. You know, I own 4 different whites for different uses. I own a white ink because I think they edge highlight better than white edge like any other one I've used. But, you know, Dakotha has a different preference.
I actually don't like inks very much.
I love inks.
I think they rub off too easy. It pisses me off. I'm a fat thumb motherfucker. Just fucking wipe shit off my own model. It is on me. But I'm not the only fat thumb motherfucker out there, okay?
It's on you. That was good. So that's mostly mandrakes. There's a few more nips and bits here.
So we only have their strategic ploys, their faction ploys, and their tack ploys left. And their abilities. Let's go over their abilities real quick. Which is usually the first thing that we do. But sorry, you guys had to wait until, you know, however long this is to find out. So we did Shadow Passage, right? You can do once per turn. You can have a dude jump from anywhere in the map to another place in the map. You know? Fucking cool. I can teleport. That's dope. Or you can use the shadow portal with your shade weaver and have all your homies go through a singular point. So that's cool too.
Yeah, one thing that's interesting with that one is, again, not something I really looked into too much, but I saw some cool discussions about actually like the order of operations. Like, can you do your shadow portal and then do the shadow weaver ability, right? So you could do 2, but if you do the shadow weaver first, do you lose your shadow portal? So just interesting, like another thing to add to like the FAQs. I'm sure, again, there's a situation where that comes up, but like pretty crazy if you're porting 2 people.
Yeah,
a turn or more than that, right? But
yeah. I mean, at least they still have to end within shadow, so there is some
be on the board and
some things they gotta get under, you know, like. And I found one of the ones at the hard way was within shadow. The line of sight isn't really a thing in that part. I thought like, oh, they have to be within shadow. Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, heavy and or under the vantage. That's fine. And I thought it was they can't be in my line of sight. No, that's not true. They can absolutely be in my line of sight as long as they're following all the within shadow parts. And then I just got fucked.
So they also have umbral entities, which is the thing that's giving them the invulnerable save. So it gives them a 5-up invul. But if they're within shadow, then they have a 4-up save instead. And it's great against teams that have a ton of AP, you know, like Vetguard. Or, you know, other teams.
God, the mirror match is going to be a nightmare.
Oh, I feel like I feel like it's going to be real interesting. No one gets to go.
Oh, that's
armor saves for everybody.
That's the real nightmare.
Does
of the box.
Does Warp Coven have things that ignore invul saves?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't think Warp Coven does.
Because any team that can ignore invul saves can actually really fuck this team up.
I think there's a team or 2 that has something, but I don't remember.
I mean, I know Inquisition can shut off invulns.
Oh,
yeah, that's my thought process with the chest are using the Hexorcist on the leader. Like, again, I don't know if that's like
you dirge mod that Hexorcist forever.
Maybe, yeah. There's a lot of it's interesting. I think about the Inquisition. I don't think it's good. I don't think it looks like it's going to work out too well. But I think it's like interesting. I was like, how would I play this? Like, I don't know, that's how I've been thinking about it. Like, how would I play it as Inquisition? But it's funny because we're like, who ignores invulns? It's like, oh well, the mandrakes. Actually, by the way, like ignore invulns. So there, but like you mentioned that, so they have the 5-up save, right? Invuln, and it's 4 when you're in shadow. So you're probably always getting the 4-up. But we like, let's say you need to run someone out into the open.
Dude, it's not even a psychic action. It's just unique.
Yeah.
That
like
sucked.
you could get the auto retain. So we go into the strap ploys. I know we're at abilities, but like the gloaming shroud where you, by the way, I have yet to use gloaming shroud in my games, and I should have, and I played Pathfinders twice. So that's pretty just like very telling. But like the gloaming shroud, like you get the free retain, right? If you're within shadow, is like super strong. So like you're always using this to like have, like you're always going to have this and like the 4-up invuln, which is like just like nuts, right? So even if you're not in cover, but you're probably in cover. And then if you can't be in shadow, let's say you have to like throw a dude on a point, like out in the open or somewhere, you throw like one of your forward points that doesn't have any cover, you put a barricade on there, that dude can just have super conceal and just hang out there. Right. Or you wait to dash him. Like there's so many, like, it's just crazy how there's just so many ways. Like if you can't be within shadow and you can't get this like durability, you can just move them afterwards before, like when all the threats are gone. It's pretty nuts. But just having the invuln's like super nice, especially with the extra save.
It's disgusting.
It is. It really is.
It's not disgusting and resilient. It's just disgusting and nightmarish. We'll move on to, what do you guys want to do next? Strategic, faction, or tactical ploys?
I feel like I already started with the strategic ploys.
Let's do that.
On G, unless you had a different.
No. I think we got most of them right. The only one we haven't done is Blade in the Dark. No, we did Blade in the Dark.
Yeah, Blade in the Dark is a charge for conceal. If you start and/or end within shadow, gloaming shrouds, the free save. There's inescapable nightmare, which is also pretty good. So whenever you make a shooting attack within shadow, you get a free reroll. So that's like crazy. Like I feel like I would use that as I think about the team. Like I feel like most teams I'm using that up pretty often, but I look at what else they have and I'm like not sure.
If I was to play a narrative game, this is the team I would do, and I wouldn't kill anything. I would just take. I'll talk about it when we get to faction tag up. But go ahead. And then Creeping Horror. Did we go over Creeping Horror?
Creeping Horror is the dash. Yeah, that's the dash from conceal.
Yeah, that's good.
Pretty good.
I think then with tac ploys we did Slither.
Yeah, Slither out of sight's the one where you can flip the order to conceal if they're within shadow. Nowhere to hide. This one is so good, right? It's this thing's wild. So that game I blocked the door versus my friend, like I then sent a model who was up like through that piece of terrain and double charged 2 people in the back line. And it's just like, because I had I didn't have charge from conceal up turning point 2, but I had the dashes. So that model's on conceal, so they dash, then they go and they switch to engage and they can just charge, right?
Can't you also like put the token with like on the very edge of the building so that when you charge through, you might also still be in your little smoke thing?
If you wanted to smoke, I don't know if it goes through the wall, but yeah, you could probably do something where it's like going around it or something. But like even then, like the idea is like,
I think it's just a 2-inch token, right?
For the smoke, or are you talking about the portal?
For smoke.
For smoke, it is, this guy's smoke is, where is he? Make sure the card's flipped the right way. 2-inch radius.
Yeah, so you can go partially through buildings.
Yeah, I mean, that's just added to the list, right? But yeah, like you could do that, and then you charge the other side, and you're just like, boom, like, now I'm obscured from all your shots. You can't shoot me. So yeah, pretty crazy. But like the charging through walls is nuts. And it says whenever it performs a move action. So you don't have to do it at the beginning of the turning point. It's only when you do a move. And then until the end of the activation, the operative can move through parts of terrain features if they were not there. So like another cool way of using this is like, let's say you have like a risky shot. Like you could dash someone out with the free dash, right? And that could go through a wall, I'm guessing, because whenever an operative performs a move action, so you could do it when someone does the dash. Which,
well, it's not a move action; it's in which it moves. So it's a dash,
an action in which it moves. Correct. Yeah, very good clarity there. Yeah. So yeah, anything there, or like you could have someone go and they can now like, let's say the 3 APL, they could like move, shoot, and then dash through a wall so someone can't get to them. Right. Like, hey, there's other ways of using this besides like I'm just trying to like blood for the bug. I like run through the wall, right? Like and just kill people. But like there's other ways to use this, and it's crazy to think that
you can
there's-
score crazy
yeah.
points that people don't think you're going to score either.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's just so many things you can do, and the fact that you can use it in the out of sequence dashes if you really needed to is just, how do you plan for that as an opponent? But anyways, that's really good. Probably the coolest one. There's actually, I say it's probably the coolest one. There's also one where like after an enemy operative performs the charge action and then a fight. So some like rules questions around this one too. And the resolve successful hit step of the combat, you are the attacker. And then if both operatives have the rule, obviously it has no effect for both operatives. So the operative has to perform a charge and then a fight action and selects a friendly Mandrake operative within shadow as the target. So a couple of conditions to be met there. So if you charge with a Marine, and then let's say like loot a point and then fight, can this ability be used? I've seen discussions around that. I think that's interesting. But regardless, I feel like the big thing is like you get a fights first like tactical ploy that's usually built into a specific model in the team. And you're like, yeah, I can give it to one of my crazy melee operatives. Like imagine trying to kill the chooser in melee. And then he's just like, oh, Shadow's Bite, I fight first. And he kills you. And now the next guy that goes is 3 APL.
Right.
My silence speaks words.
Volumes.
Yeah, it's super interesting, but that's pretty good. And then the last one was Soul Feast. That's the one that heals people APL multiplied by the amount of dice required to kill them. Pretty good.
That's awesome. Just awesome. So we're gonna go over the faction TAC ops, but before we do, there is their archetypes. It seems like they couldn't figure out what they wanted to give this.
Yeah, this is the best part.
They're like, hey, you could play infiltration, you could play recon, or you could play seek and destroy. I mean,
should have just been seek and destroy and infiltration. They shouldn't have had recon.
I mean,
Yeah.
I agree. I 100%
Like,
agree.
what the fuck, dude?
I'm with you.
Yeah, we're not saying security is the weakest, but like, you're probably not going to use security if you have these, like.
Infiltration makes sense. I try to think about thematic, like infiltration, seek and destroy makes sense. Like these dudes, I don't know any lore about Mandrakes. They don't strike me as the recon type of.
Dude, I would rather take
guys.
any other TAC op ploy rather than security for Vedguard. Like security is probably the most balanced, but it's still the worst.
But I think I think the bigger. Well, I would agree. But I think the bigger issue is like they get to I feel like a lot of teams just have. I see more and more teams have more and more options with like which archetypes they could take. Like playing like intercession a lot, like they can only take seek and destroy or security, right? Which makes sense. I play also Inquisition, who can take everything, so I'm about to put my foot in my mouth. But the whole point is like the option, being able to take anything is like it's interesting. But they can take 3 of the 4 archetypes. Oh, and by the way, they have 2 good faction TAC ops. Like that alone makes them appealing, right? Because of the flexibility and the fact that it's easy to score secondaries. I've heard, I think that's just like pretty nutty. I would say like if there is a nerf, like they should not be able to take recon. It's so good with the teleport. Like it's just so good. Like I said, you can add a sequence dash onto your item if you weren't there, or if like someone makes a play and they commit a bunch of resources to deny you something, you can, like I said,
Or
like,
your last activation, you move up to it. Yeah.
or teleport to it, or just like smoke it and have someone stay
my
on it.
God.
Yeah, like right, like man.
Dude. Oh, I'm going to win the game. Oh, I'm going to get my last point on recover item, and then I win the game. Oh, well, shit.
Yeah, like you could port and pick up the item too, right? Like
Oh, my
that's
Lord,
pretty
you're right.
nutty. Where you pick up the item, and then like even if somehow your guy dies, who can fight first in melee and all other nuts abilities, he then drops it like an inch further back, so the next person just walks up, and you definitely get it at the next turning point. It's just it's pretty crazy, pretty crazy.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Team is not cracked at all.
They look super cool, and they are fun to play as, but I really want to play the Felgor matchup. I think that'll be telling Felgor, and like I say, Gellerpox, but like Felgor seems like it would still be tough.
I think that they still struggle on the Felgor. I'm not.
Yeah, I don't know how you don't. It's just hard to kill 20 models. That's a lot of models to kill.
Yeah, it's the most epic of gotcha teams. That I mean, maybe because you can shoot so much, and you can start on engage with all of them. Maybe like maybe you have a shot, but
Yeah,
Or
maybe there's
you
a
can
way.
outmaneuver them. Like
Yeah.
maybe your action economy is better than theirs. But I mean, like, what's his dick? The shade dude, the chooser of the flesh. He doesn't get his bonus APL against the team. He just stops it. You know, there's a couple things that they might struggle with. Boo-hoo, they have one counter.
Yeah.
So I really like Haunting Manifestation, their faction TAC Op 3, for specifically narrative games, because I wouldn't want to kill anything. I just want to like haunt around the board and be like, oh, I'm stalking you, Scooby-Doo.
It's interesting because I honestly like discounted that one super hard, but they can take infiltration, right? So you could like stack this with stalk target, right? That's pretty cool. I like how they stack because like you have that, and then there's another one that's like if you charge and kill someone, which is like stacks super well. With,
Death from Darkness,
control.
like
yeah.
But
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like the idea of like just having to like.
I don't want it to be good. Stop trying to make it good.
There's
okay?
not. That's the problem. Is they're just all right. Well, at least if you're playing narrative, you get the option to choose any archetypes. You don't just have to choose the ones you get.
That's true.
Which is cool. So
I'll take security.
you can haunt the building in the middle.
Yeah, that's kind of cool with like the Dirgemaw actually. Like you're trying to play, you just like troll. Yeah. I don't know. That's pretty interesting. You
So
can
much
do
for
that.
trying not to break it.
Yeah, it's just fun. Like you have this super good model. Actually, I'm going to keep running away and injuring you so you can't catch me. Like that's pretty funny. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. Like the teams, like it's not like they're so good that it's like we're saying all these strategies, but like half of them are like off the top of our heads. Like we're just BSing. Like and it's just like, man, that's really good. Like if you take a handful of those things and give it to anybody, but yeah, I mean that's cool. I like the idea of doing that. Maybe I'll try that out next time just to see how it works. But
like
go ahead, G.
if you can make bone darts work, I think that'd be the way to go. Like
The bone dart meta.
Like make bone darts work somehow. And nothing else. Don't take anything good. Just take 10 bone darts.
All right,
nine.
take 10. Someone get.
You could have one chain snare, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally don't think there's any scenario that you'd ever want to take a bunch of bone darts.
I mean, if you all right, hear me out.
Oh,
hear
he's
me
doing
out.
it.
So, dash. Another free dash if they have the 4-inch range. That's 8 inches, right? Then you get another move.
Oh my fucking god!
And now you get a silent shot because you have a 6-inch move, and then you have a silent shot as long as they're. First of all, it doesn't even have indirect. That's terrible. These bone darts suck. But like, you can be silent and like just shoot somebody or like chip someone on a point. I don't know. Like that's your potential play there with it. Like when you compare it to the rest of the team, it's hilarious.
And they're range 6 inches, right? So, like,
But what I'm hearing, Dakotha, is you're taking Mandrakes to Dallas, but you're using Haunting Manifestations and all bone darts, and you're not going to flip anyone off Conceal.
if I didn't tell everyone that I was going to take Vetguard, I would probably consider it. But I'm taking Vetguard because I said I was going to.
That's right.
He still has until the weekend, and anything can happen.
Yeah, the Haunting Manifestations bone dart meta. No one's ready for that.
No one's ready for it.
No one's ready. It's amazing. So, pretty much that sums up. Did we miss any of the faction TAC ops?
We already talked the charge and from an end in shadow, and then the one where you just got to control a piece of heavy.
So we'll wrap this podcast then with our hopes and predictions. So something recent happened. If no one watches Chapter Master Valrak, he came out today and had like a 4-minute hot episode of hotness. And it was a bunch of stuff about the next edition, which are at least what we assume to be the next edition. He didn't say the next edition, but I think we can all assume that he's talking about the next edition. He keeps saying the next edition set of rules. And he says, he's been saying that Kill Team is going to the skies, right? Which seems fucking retarded. And then he clarified that it's going higher, so that he's insinuating that there's a brand new set of terrain coming out that has 2-story tall vantages. And that there's going to be a bunch of teams that are flying that are supposedly coming out. So the 4 teams that he's mentioned, 2 in the video, he says is Vespids, which I hope it's not just Vespids. Hopefully it's Gueseva. So hopefully it's like like a bunch of different like unified factions that you can take, because that would be way more interesting than just Vespids. If anyone doesn't know what a Vespid is a race that the Tau conquered for the greater good, and then they joined the greater good cause, much like the Kroot. Tau Vespids supposedly fighting Jump Pack Tempestus Scions. Now, what's interesting about both those teams is they both have fly, and we saw how good it was with the
Void Dancers.
Void Dancers. So good, in fact, that they nerfed fly into the fucking ground for them, and now they're coming out with possibly double vantages. All I can think about is Scions jumping up on double vantages. I would assume that punishing vantage would also be in effect, or something similar. We can all pray that that doesn't happen. Yeah, so supposed to fly up top and shoot the shit out of everyone. Sounds like a great time to me. And then there's two more teams, and then I'll let everyone respond.
Okay.
There's two more teams that he's also talked about. One was Swooping Hawks are supposed to come at the end of the year, supposedly. And then another team that he's talked about is Ratlings. So that's interesting. Not a fan of the Ratlings one, but how about you guys?
What do you
guys think?
I don't love the idea of everything flies. I'm always in favor of one.
It's going to be great for beta, doesn't it?
Maybe two, but I'm never in favor of everything flies.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I feel like to balance that's going to be real hard.
It's going to be perfect for mandrakes, hey, let's make everything mandrake.
Yeah, that's why they have super conceal, right? So no one can shoot them on the vantages. That's pretty oof. That might be why. That may make more sense. But it'd be cool if they did that, but if they're going to start just giving everybody fly or crazy abilities, I feel like there's a way to maybe every team gets a jetpack or something that makes it so they can keep up. Because I would worry what I see with the mandrakes is power creep, right? My only frame of reference is magic, and yeah, that's you see this now. Everyone has fly. It's all right. Well, how do we keep the other teams relevant? I think there's probably a way to do that. Of course, if you do, you got to be careful. But go ahead.
I think there's a really easy way. Remember how Beta Decima just sucks? What if the next terrain set also just sucks, right? And not competitive. I just don't think it'll be played. And I think that organizers will see if things are busted and be able to adjust things accordingly, whether it's in Games Workshop's will or not, and kind of go from there. So if any of that is true, we'll have to see. I mean, power creep definitely seems like it's been a thing outside of the Scouts and Blades of Cain. The releases as of late have been very strong. It's gone Felgor, and then Inquisition / Cults, and then we had Justian, but everyone forgets about Justian because they don't really exist. And then we had Blades of Cain and Scouts, which both aren't particularly great. And then we have these two teams, and then it looks like the next team, at least one of the next teams, looks fucking cracked to me. It looks insane. Giga Chad, as the kids say these days.
I think the Tempest Scions shouldn't have jump packs, but they should have an ability where only certain guys have to start on the board, and then everyone else comes in through a drop move. And they'd have a ploy or something where when they fall in, they get to do a shooting attack, and then they can land and conceal or something stupid like that, kind of GA2 drop move.
So do you guys think that this is a possibility? Because I have one frame of reference where I think that this Valrak might be leading us towards the False Emperor.
All right, why? What do you think?
So typically with any new box set or any new release or new edition, it's both teams are brand new models, right? And Scions would not be brand new models. It would just be an upgrade sprue for the Scions, because Scions already exist. I don't think they're going to revamp Scions.
I think they could. They revamped the Guardsmen, just like the basic everyday and the command squad.
When did Scions release, though?
Oh man, that must have been 2008.
Yeah, but I think Dire Avengers got released in like 2002. I don't think that they're up for any.
Yeah, but I generally think most Eldar stuff actually kind of hold their age really well. Save for like maybe the 80s stuff where they had like more heroic scale, but like
Yeah.
Eldar I think generally hold up pretty well. I don't think there's too many really bad ones. Again, save for the 80s stuff, like any in the Finecast, that stuff's pretty bad. But the 90s stuff, like that stuff's kind of bad now.
I mean, I could see it. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say all I'm hoping for because I'm looking up all the stuff as you guys are mentioning. And I'm like, oh man, these Vespers look pretty cool. All of it is pretty badass. Scions, can these be brought as Inquisition ancillary instead of the nerfed Scions?
Oh, it probably will be.
That'd be really cool. They just added a whole group. Yeah, that'd be wild. That would be
fucking insane.
Yeah.
Oh my lord.
Don't listen to me. But that'd be cool.
It would be. I mean, I think it would be way cooler if you could like take a mixture of models rather than just like, here's a bunch of exaction. What if you want like one exaction shield and like, the Vet Guard Melta and, something. I think a mixed team would also be pretty interesting.
You'd have to do it in fire teams, but I think that's doable. Because, you couldn't just probably like take off.
Well, here's the other thing. So when we think about when they probably started writing the next edition, right? Mm-hmm. They probably started writing the next edition, within, I don't know, a year or 6 months, or possibly even when the next edition released, right? Because what we've seen as a trend from Games Workshop is each edition is coming out every 3 years. Until they break that cycle, I'm going to say that it's going to continue on a 3-year cycle. So let's all assume and make asses out of ourselves that the next edition is coming because, it's in September and October, it will be the 3rd year.
Finally.
Right. So, does that mean that they took the initial feedback and what people really disliked about this edition coming out, and are they addressing it? And I think the number one thing that people disliked and left the game for was roster building was the number one. So are they going to bring back roster building? And
I think it could work, right? Like let's just say they do fire teams, because I'm sold on the fire team idea from Compendium. Okay. But they'd say like the entirety of your forces can only have, let's say, 4 gunners. We'll just do like guardsmen, right? Can only have 4 gunners amongst your fires teams. So that way you couldn't just take like all specialists with gunners, right? So they'd have some like levels of restrictions. So you choose certain ones and they'd benefit from their bonuses while this other fire team benefits from that bonus. But the army itself has an overall bonus that you always get, Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think Guard would be separate from Agents of Imperium. And obviously Marines are their own thing.
Yeah, except, depending on how this Inquisition book comes out, we could see the next Inquisition team seeing Space Marines maybe join their faction.
That'd be dope.
With the Death Watch, because supposedly the Death Watch might be in the new Inquisition Codex.
It'd be as agents, right? Yeah.
As specific agents, which would be really cool and interesting because they hunt Xenos, right?
Yeah.
I think it's perfect. That'd be awesome. I'd love that for Kill Team, honestly.
The other thing people really heavily criticized, probably the most heavily criticized thing about everything of this edition, was the shapes. Everyone fucking hated the shapes. Everyone doesn't care now. It's baked into our minds. Okay, 1 circle, 2 inches. Do you guys think that when they're writing the next edition that they're going to get rid of the shapes, because that was one of the number one criticisms about the game early on?
Nah.
I don't really I don't really get the shapes, to be honest with you. I'm sure there's like a reason, like no offense Dakotha, but like the colors help people. Wait
until you see episode 4.
But I'm sure there's some way it made it more accessible to other people. But like I would just put like a number in the middle of the shape just so it tags all 3 bases: color, shape, and number. But I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really bother me too much, but it was confusing at first. with the shapes.
I think it's a way for you to adopt their gauge, right? Like there's still the lines, but there's no.
It's just a way to sell something.
Like the ones that Lester's Workshop makes have numbers on there on the side, right? But the ones that GW they just gives you in the box sets, they don't. There might be the little lines, but then the rest of the time, it's just
numbers don't exist in the 41st millennium.
Right. And I think that's more of a moving away from having you to buy a ruler because they don't make the ruler anymore, to my knowledge. Or no, they probably still do. But if they can sell you a tool, you can have everything all at once.
Yeah, one thing I really like about this edition is I really like the 1-inch invisible grid that they have, and every model moves in a straight line of an inch. I really hope that sticks around because I like how reminiscent of other tabletop RPGs it is, like D&D and other things. It translates really well into a skirmish game. I'm pretty excited about that. Is there anything else that you guys are like hoping for or wishing for? I have like one thing for sure.
I mean, you already mentioned Death Watch, so I'm pretty good right now. I'm content. Tyranids would be cool as an enemy, like an actual Tyranid kill team. I'm not sure what they do. Smarter people than me have figured it out, probably.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's like, I don't know. I think there's like, I'm sure there's like some quality of life things. I feel like I've just like played enough now where like I've gotten used to a lot of the rules, but for me, it's all about like accessibility for other people. Like I'm sure there's a way to simplify certain parts of the rules, like obscuring or something, or make like a rules light version that makes it easier for like narrative play and stuff. I don't know how that works considering like how many teams are built around like with obscuring specifically. It's not the only thing, but like to ignore that or use that to their advantage. I'm sure there's something there with like measuring. They can make things easier or like, I think one thing that always gets me, like I think there's certain parts, like I love Kill Team, but there's certain parts that like frustrate me a little bit. It's like how I know people don't model for advantage, or certain people do, I'm sure, but like I've been playing against Pathfinders a lot. And like, if you measure from the head, right, and they got those helmets on, like that's pretty good for like what they could cover from visibility standpoint versus like other teams, right? Removing like little advantages like that or making it more clear. Or like if you see a sliver of someone's piece of like clothing, you're like, I could shoot that model. It's like, I get that from a rule standpoint now, but like as I was playing and everything, like that still always feels to me like a gotcha, even though it's in the rules. And I know that's like all part of the game, and I appreciate that now, but I'm sure that like frustrates certain people, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think one really innately bad thing about the game is elites. And obviously, like, I don't know about changing models' wounds or damage or defense dice or whatever. Like, Space Marines now get 4 defense. I don't know. I don't know any of that kind of stuff.
Intercessors shoot 3 times.
Oh no, that's a problem.
That's terrible.
I can go on guard 3 times. No.
So I think there's like 3 things that I've been thinking about that would really help elites. One of which Adrian brought up on our LVO podcast when we interviewed him for winning LVO, and that was Overwatch doesn't have to just be a shoot action. Maybe it's a flip action or a dash action or something like that. I think that would be really good. I think changing the overall amount of objectives in Kill Team would be a huge buff to elites. Not more, less.
Obviously.
Like imagine if Kill Team went to 2 objective markers.
Maybe 4.
The amount of fucking killing that would happen.
I love that, by the way, because in like a lot of the narrative games and like the missions, it's like there's like sometimes only 2 objectives, or like you have to hold. Like I like that idea. I played a really fun narrative game against Aiden, who was playing Death Guard, and he put his like it was like weird. I forgot what the exact mission was. Like you had to like flip some like circuits or something on like 2 points before you can capture the center one. So there's like this like little mini game, obviously within the game, but it's like, it was just super fun that he like to play where there's only like 2 or 3 objectives to like really worry about. And like I had a more models than he did, obviously, because he was playing elites, and it just made it way more fair. Right, where if it was just play the objectives, like you could, like, you know, times I've played Inquisition, like versus like elites, and they just like smoke me, and I have bad dice, but somehow I still win the game because I just played the primaries better. And it's like not even better. I just have more models, right? Like I don't know. It feels good. Like, it doesn't even like feel good to win that way sometimes. Like, I feel like, oh, that was like smart. I'm glad I positioned appropriately, but it also feels like this person probably didn't even have a chance. Like, that doesn't feel great, you know?
Yeah. I think another one would be, I mean, I'd say a more reasonable number would probably be like 4.
Yeah.
3, 4. I think 5 is still too many because elites have six operatives, right? And it's like you have to leave one. I would love to see another thing. I would love to see hold more, kill more come back to this game. I really miss that way of scoring primaries. So hold more, kill more is if you hold more objectives than your opponent, you score a VP. And if you kill more than your opponent, you score a VP. And I really, really enjoyed that from the old edition. I think that would also help elites quite a lot. So like they have another way of scoring points somehow. So maybe they keep loot, maybe they keep all that kind of stuff and add some kind of killing metric. Kill more just in general. Maybe you can score a VP, you know, maybe it's not capped at 4. Maybe it's still capped at 4.
Everyone gets out of sequence dashes. That seems like
good idea. but here's the crazy thing. Like if we look at these teams, right, and we look at the teams that are coming up next, and even Blades of Cain and Scouts, Games Workshop typically does this a lot. When a new edition is coming, they start showing off rules of their next edition in the teams that are coming up, and you can only look back on it retrospectively and see that happening. So, for instance, 10th edition Warhammer had a bunch of their rules hidden within what is that game mode that we really liked? Boarding actions.
Oh man, that's a game.
Yeah, a lot of fun. So like, are we going to see a lot more reciprocal things that we can do, kind of like what they started doing with Horus Heresy, where you're allowed to do out of turn reactions to an opponent's move, right? I think that could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, how do you feel about Nemesis Claw? Like, how do they feel? I haven't played as them or against them yet.
Okay, so
I played and lost.
You tell me first, then I'll tell you what I think.
What I think about the team?
Well, Dakotha, what do you? Because you've played them against.
Do you want me to tell? Do you want me to say first?
You can go first. Yeah, you can go first.
They're fucking insane. So I think that this team probably rolls all elites harder than all other elites. Like maybe any other faction in the game. They also fucking like Legionary were already good into Felgor. Legionary were already good into Gellerbox. This team is just leaps and bounds better than Legionary. They are pretty insane. Some of the things that they can do, like having a 19-inch toxin grenade go off, and if you clump your models whatsoever, maybe they don't die this turn, but if they get toxified or poisoned or whatever the fuck it's called, they'll die next turn or the turn after. I think that the team is like absolutely insane on close combat. They are like the amount of like, you're going to get a minus, I'm going to get buffs. I'm going to have these two models roll up together and kill whatever the fuck they touch. Doesn't matter. They fuck Felgor. This team is really, really good. And it's no longer the fact of like, I think that this team even has play into Hordes. I think they still lose to Pathfinders. They definitely have play into Vetguard. I think that the team is really, really strong. I think that they're definitely at least A tier, at least.
I can almost agree with A tier. I think they're really strong. I got to see them be played twice. The first time the person played them, they were using their abilities and got destroyed turn 2. Like they were just dead. It was over. So then they re-racked because it was.
What were you playing?
I was playing against. Sorry, I was watching. I was not playing myself, and so they got bodied like right away in the second turn. So then afterwards, they re-racked and then they won. Once they figured out the stuff they had to do.
That makes sense. That catches about the same.
Yeah, I mean they seem pretty good for elites. I wonder how, again, you say they're A tier. That makes sense. I could see that.
They could definitely win a tournament. They definitely could.
Do you think we see a large, like, you know, like everyone takes, or not everyone, but like a lot of people take Intercession and Legionary? Do you see like the Legionnaires player moving away from Legionnaires and towards Night Lords, or do you still think we'll see like a?
They play different. They play totally different.
I think that we 100% do. I think that all elites teams and commandos are still insanely popular, and this team just being really, really good and relatively simple to play. They're not like too crazy. They definitely have higher end possibilities by playing the team when you position correctly. I definitely think the team is going to be very, very popular. It's going to be more popular than Mandrakes. I think it's going to be. Right now, they're on the same level. They're getting the same amount of play. But Mandrakes is innately more difficult. There's more combos and more things that you have to remember with the team. So they're going to be more difficult to pilot. But this team is definitely fun to play, it seemed. And also, I think the other thing is, like, competitively, like, this shits on Felgors. Like, this team does. And it's like, what do people hate to play against right now? Felgor, you know?
It's just because they haven't played Mandrake.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Man, I feel like it's gonna feel bad, but it's I'm with you. I mean, I was considering, like, I really wanted to play Custodes, like, because I played in that narrative league. I played all sisters, so I never played all sisters, and I was like, oh, it'll be fun. I don't have to think too much. I'm just gonna basically play, like, it was like compendium only. I was like, I'm gonna play 10 sisters. We're gonna do like compendium Felgor was like my joke, right? But it ended up being like really good. Aiden smoked me with his Death Guard, by the way, because of all the narrative buffs. I love
his
that.
Depth Guard? Depth
The Depth Guard, yeah. His icon bear, man. He gets to rerolls the 1s and 2s on the Feel No Pains. I was just like, I was playing the Kamikaze Sister of Silence, and I was just like charging them up the board to everybody. Like, that was just for fun, right? And like, it just nothing, just couldn't kill anything. But anyways, I wanted to play Custodes, and I really like the idea of like running like 4 shield bros into Felgor. Like, that was like one of the things I was considering. Like, I don't think it's like their top tier team, but the idea of just shutting down Felgor put a smile on my face.
Yeah, it's this team is really, really good, in my opinion. I think that they're definitely going to win tournaments. I think they're better than Warp Coven. I think they're real strong. So
give it time.
That's my hot take on them. Is there anything else that you guys hope or wish for if there's another edition on the horizon, or at least in the next season of Terrain?
City fight.
Yeah, I mean, 2-story buildings, I think it's guaranteed city fight.
Sounds like city fight. It's good. I mean, they need to recycle city fight, and why not in skirmish game where guerrilla fighting makes sense?
One of my friends said that was his favorite edition of Warhammer.
It was my favorite too.
Yeah, he said it was his favorite. So it's like cool to think about that. That'd be pretty sweet.
It was 4th through 6. I think they
were doing
supported city fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there was cool things where you could take like sewer tokens and like pop up.
That's what I was thinking
randomly on the board.
I gave you those rules I wrote, like that. It's like, this is how it should work, and that was one of them. You got to go through the sewers and come out somewhere else.
Yeah, like another interesting thought is, do you think that they would bring back Outflank? So Outflank in the old edition was this idea where you could start with models off the table, and on turning point 2, 3, and 4, they could come in on the edges of the board as long as they weren't within so many inches of an enemy model. And then they also had Deep Strike, so you could actually just straight up Deep Strike into the enemy deployment zone. And hey, it's not crazy because Mandrakes can fucking teleport anywhere the fuck they want to.
That's what I was saying about Scions. I'm thinking they'll have a deep strike ability where they're jumping down from Valkyries, and they're gonna get to do a shooting attack, and then they can, I'm jump down
with my Melta-gun
and then shoot you. Yeah, I think that's what they're gonna do, because that's what they do in the lore. Like, it just makes sense.
Of course, that is if the team is even real, right? Like, We don't know if any of these rumors in the rumorverse or whisperverse is real. We just hear
The
things
Valrek verse.
on the Valrek verse. Pretty fascinating.
Absolutely.
Pretty fascinating. Is there any teams that you guys are hoping to see come out in the future?
Nah.
Come on, G. You have like no creativity tonight, my guy. I got you. I'm gonna bring that shit. I have like 6 fucking teams.
I answered
okay.
that. I mean, like I got the ones I wanted. I mean, I guess what a cool one would be to have like the humans part of the Tau. That could be fun.
Okay, Go Save Us.
Go Save Us could be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. It had to be something that's like picked from somewhere else. But
so any hero team we got
hero teams would be
Eisenhorn.
fun. Hero teams would be fun.
Yeah, we got Eisenhorn. We got the fucking Gaunt's Ghost. We could get
Last Chancers would be cool.
Yeah, we like. Oh gosh, what else could we get?
Dark
we could get
Tide could be
Catachan, Dark Tide, Catachan. We got Dark Mechanicus.
There we go. That's what I was gonna say. I was waiting for you to finish.
Dark Mechanicus versus Grey Knights. Like, come on, that box is ready to be sold. You could get. There was a rumor quite a while ago. I don't forget rumors very easily. Eldar Exodite worlds. So like
Exodites
Eldar
would
on
be cool.
dinosaurs.
Yeah, Exodites.
Yeah, Exodites. Exodites would be interesting. So there's another rumor that not for Kill Team, for 40K, because a lot of times when we're developing like ideas, or when I'm developing ideas, is like, firstly, I look at resin models that have been, in existence in Games Workshop. They like to update those, or upcoming releases. I think at the end of this edition, supposedly Lehman Russ is coming back with the Space Wolves, so we could see some kind of Space Wolf thing. In summertime, Blood Angels are getting an update, so maybe we could get a Blood Angels team, which would be, I actually, before Valrak came out with this thing saying Vespids versus what's it called, I was actually thinking we were going to get some sort of Chaos versus Blood Angel box. I think that would be super sick.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just like so many things that are interesting that we could see. And hero teams is like number 1 on my list. Like, I don't want to play some dumbass book wielding, sorry, Jason, guy, right? Like, I want to play like Eisenhorn him fucking self. Give me Beckwin. Give me, Amos. Like, bring these guys. Let me play them. Like, I don't need to craft some narrative around, myself or anything like that. Like, that's not what we want. We want to play the heroes of the Imperium. You feel me?
I think it'd be pretty cool to do that. Yeah. I think you're thinking more like Justian, but better or good.
Oh yeah.
Better way of putting it.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. Give me them heroes, bring back Kill Team heroes. Maybe the next edition's just like Kill Team Elites and they bring back that monstrosity. Add all elites to different kill teams again. That did make Kill Team way better back in the day, but
Elites was a good expansion.
It was.
But that was a different game.
Jason, is there anything you want to shout out, brother, as we wrap this bad boy up?
Oh man, I feel like whenever this comes up, there's always so many people I want to shout out to, but appreciate everyone, like the local scene, Warp Surfers, Kill Team, everybody, super awesome. Shout out to Alexander Popov for the Beta Decima, or I don't know what's called.
2 in a row, Alexander Popov, my guy.
Yeah, he's I printed some of the terrain he's been working on. It's always like super good detail. Like, I took some measurements of some stuff and I was going to 3D print it myself. And like, you see like the care and the level of detail he puts into it. So big fan of the dude, and like appreciate him always doing stuff like that for the community. So that's pretty awesome. And then shout out to my fiance for letting me do a podcast for 2.5 hours.
Nice. Also, shout out to your fiance. Thank you.
I guess I'll shout her out too. I don't even know her.
I do, Giacomo.
When you come pick up the spare 3D printer, G, you can meet her. There you go. It's still sitting there for you, man.
Thanks.
G, you got anything?
Of course, you can find us on Discord. Join the conversation there. Show us paint jobs you're working on, or ask us questions. We're always around. The Discord, the Squad Games Discord. The link is in the show notes. You can join us on Patreon, help us out in a more personal way, and we really appreciate that. Of course, there's also a little extra stuff for you on the Patreon. But if you can't do that, leaving a rating for us on the podcast also helps. Sharing it, maybe this benefits someone who's looking to play Mandrakes or looking to play against them and what they might have to look out for, And don't forget our YouTube channel. We got another episode of Hobby Highlander coming out. I think it's the end of this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As long as I finish it before I go to Dallas. Otherwise, it'll be next week. We'll have to see.
That is the in progress. And if not, you can still catch the first 2 episodes. They're still relevant. Leave us a bad comment. Leave us a nice comment. Whatever you want to do. Share it with someone, Sharing is cool. That's pretty much it for me outside of finding me on Instagram, wargaming_studios, where I will be prepping. This weekend is my goal to prep the rest of the army to have everything ready for Monument Hobby Paint time. Yeah.
Nice.
How about you?
Yeah. If you're going to Dallas, come and say hi. Tell me that you're a fan of the podcast, right? And we'll talk some. That's why I'm going out. I'm going out to see a bunch of friends, see a bunch of players actually play. There's some games, and have some fun for once.
Can I do 2 more shout outs, Dakotha?
Fuck yeah, man. Go.
Awesome. Yeah, 2 more people. Mike Cortez, been playing a lot with him. Awesome dude.
I love Mike Cortez.
Dude, Mike has helped me understand the game so much better. There's so many rules I would get frustrated and be pissed about. And he just had a good way of explaining it. And I'm like, that makes sense. I really do it's funny. I've never been a narrative player or anything before I started doing this. And when he explains it that way, or he gives a situation that makes sense, it's it makes it so much easier to accept a rule, especially if it's it feels bad. So that's been great. So I really appreciate that. I've been playing games with him on TTS, and he's kind of made me enjoy TTS a bit more than when I had my first few experiences. But that, and then you guys, really appreciate you always setting up events and stuff like that. I'm not just saying, it's really awesome. I get to see people who I don't get to see too often. Friends I made a couple months ago at all the events. So I always appreciate you guys doing that, especially having the in-between tournaments between the bigger majors and stuff like that.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Yeah, so make sure you come out, say hi to us, come out to any of our tournaments, support us that way. And, something that costs you nothing is to give us a 5-star review here, or just to go and give us a like on YouTube for Hobby Highlander, or a subscription there. So any of those things helps us out tremendously and makes us feel like we're part of the community. So thank you, everyone, as always. And that's me signing out.
See you guys. The Squad Games podcast is a production of Squad Games Entertainment. For more information on Squad Games, please visit our website at lestersworkshop.com/squad-games.